Pedro Pascal played a great, dare I say, a fantastic Mr. Fantastic.
Top to bottom, even the background characters, side characters, Innocent, like you said, was just a fantastic Galactus. Fantasticus.
Are we subconsciously going to say fantastic all the time?
Yeah, we might have to.
The Fantasticus.
And this is our Silver Surfer. Like you said, this is Julia Garner. Fantastic. Again, we're shoehorning fantastic into everything.
I guess take a shot every time we say it. It was fantastic. And the scene was, we said it before, fantastic. So I thought it was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
And then you take over and you played me.
Yep. Fantastic.
Hey, what's poppin', corn dogs? It's time to flame on and get those kernels a jumpin' and a poppin' due to the heater that we have coming at you. Happy Fantastic Four Day, August 8th. It's 8/8. We're talking fours. And this is exactly 64 years after the comic book debut of the Fantastic Four, when they made their debut on August 8th, 1961. How fitting. We are here. We're here to do this thing. We're here to stretch our legs. I feel like we're a little bit of the invisible podcast because I feel like I'm rarely seen. But you know what I say to that? Flame on, corn dogs, because I'm Captain Pop. I'm a superhero for this week. I wouldn't be piloting the Fantastic car with anybody else except for this man right here. It is Nick, the Corn Dog Justice. He's here with me. Welcome in, buddy.
Thank you, sir, and thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, I am the Corn Dog. I was on a roller this week because we actually were in the theaters. I actually did have me a corn dog at the movie theaters and a big old bucket of popcorn because, as you can see from the title of this episode, title of the video, the podcast, you should watch the video. It's on YouTube. It's fantastic if you're not. And we went in and we saw Fantastic Four First Steps. Buddy, I'm super pumped to talk about this one.
I am hyped. And this was our in-theaters watch of the year. It was my in-theaters pick for the year. And it was a really big decision here, Nick. Before we kind of talk about our experiences and talk about that big decision, you mentioned a popcorn bucket. I did have some popcorn too. But did you see that Galactus popcorn bucket, which holds the Guinness World Record of the biggest popcorn bucket sold in theaters? Did you see that?
I saw it. I didn't know this was a Guinness record, though.
Guinness beer record holding Galactus head popcorn bucket. They said they were going to sell it in other theaters, but it was primarily an AMC popcorn bucket. So I am not near an AMC. The Cinemark is a little bit closer to me. So it said it was going to be sold in Cinemark. And I looked at it and I said, man, if the theater has it, I might buy it for a bit for this podcast. And concurrently, what went through my head was my wife will hate me if I do that because it was $80.
Whoa, what? $80?
They're capitalizing on the gimmick, the hype. I would do it. If it was there, I was going to do it.
That's fair.
And be like, look what I got. Actually, you got a special guest, Galactus Popcorn Bucket Head. So, yes, we like to make this a new tradition of going to the theaters at least once. Maybe we'll increase that in coming years because it's fun. It's wild. It's fast and furious. This time I only got around to the theaters once when we did our in-theaters watch last year of Furiosa. I did go twice because I want to make sure I was going to come correct. But I knew there was going to be a lot of breakdown videos, review videos, thanks to all those nerd YouTube channels. So big shout out to New Rockstars or Screen Crush, all those guys that just do this for a living. So I knew I was plenty covered. And if I forgot anything in the theaters on my first watch, I'd watch those videos, something would pop in my head and I would remember and say, oh yeah, I really like that. Or, oh yeah, I had a question about that. So it's a big job. It's a big movie and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, but James, I will say, I think there's something to be said about being able to talk about it because I'm like you, watched it once, probably missed a lot of Easter eggs. I think that's okay, but I think we are talking to and are part of that 80% of the population who you go, you see it once, and you give your honest reaction to it. I think that's really the mark of a movie maker, where it's like, I don't have to watch it 50 times to get it all. can you give it to me in one big serving? And then I watch it multiple times. I might pick up on something fun down the road, but I like being able for us to give that honest reaction on one watch and one initial review. I think that's how most people take in movies.
Not watching a movie on my couch. It feels like it's been a long time since we've done this. I think the way our episodes are coming out, it might be like no time has passed, like we're not in a black hole and there's no time dilation. During these summer months, we're busy with work and vacation, so we actually haven't recorded for quite a while. So Nick, there's been a lot that's actually happened, and kind of movie related. I do want to touch upon some real world news stuff that came out. A lot of movies came out in July, but Nick, I got to talk about some dead ass celebrities.
We did have quite a few celebrities pass here in the last month or so. Yeah.
So the exciting thing when we go to the theaters and watch movies, we try to get this out as quick as possible. So I'm trying to get it out next week. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole team of editors. I can't just pass it off. I have a fucking full-time job and I got to edit this as fast as I can, but I'm going to do it. So we're recording this the Tuesday after the Fantastic Four First Steps premiered. So we're going to go over weekend box office numbers, talk about comparisons to other movies that came out this summer. But we did have a kind of a crazy week of celebrities that passed away. I'm just going to go in order. Malcolm Jamal Warner. I didn't know.
Rip.
I found that out after Ozzy and Hulk Hogan, because I was like, wait, because I remember I talked to you off the side. I said, people always say the myth goes celebrities die in threes. And then so I Googled celebs that passed away in 2025, and I didn't see in the news that Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away.
Rest in peace, Theo, man.
He was like with his kid in Costa Rica, and like sucks, dude.
Just heartbreaking. Prayers to his family.
Yeah, this would only be 9 days ago because it was July 20th and he passed away, and then of course July 22nd, Ozzy Osbourne passes away, and then I think the day I was going to go watch the movie on July 24th was Hulk Hogan. So we got a lot of folks passing away here. This happened after some friends of the show also passed away. So Nick, we texted each other off to the side related to the Fantastic Four. Julian McMahon passed away. He was our Dr. Doom in those early 2000s Fantastic Fours. He passed away July 2nd.
Hashtag that's my doom.
And then also Michael Madsen. The very next day, July 3rd, he was a friend of the show from War Games and from Free Willy. That was sad news.
Yep. Yeah, we're getting to that age where we're having these childhood actors, maybe not even the largest names, but these people who are, like you said, friends of the show. As movie watchers, we see these people and they're starting to pass. And it's for us, it's big news because we appreciate all these side actors, these supporting casts.
They're part of our family. It is a big deal. And Nick, speaking of big deal, there was some big trouble because I said, is there a third friend of the show that passed away this year? Because they all die in threes. And you know what? There was a fucking passing in the family. And it was from an actor from Big Trouble in Little China, Peter Kwong, who played Rain. He was one of the three storms. He passed away May 27th. With all this tragedy and all these people that are getting laid to rest, and we are just going to watch them on screen. They're immortalized in movies. I feel like adding on to the wrap party segment, we need an in memoriam section of all of our friends of the show.
100%.
I'm not saying I'm going to pass the buck off to you, but I think you should definitely compile a list.
I would love to.
Because you're a good guy.
Yeah, we should definitely do an in memoriam because these actors, these characters in these movies, they become these little things to us, right?
No matter how big or small your part is, like if we say your name and we now know your work and know that you exist, we feel like we know you. Well, we don't feel like we know you, but you're part of the Just Play It family.
That's the magic of movies, man. We let these people into our homes. We let these people into our lives.
I'll let you into my home.
We bring these characters into our space, and it's fun. That's the magic of entertainment, right? Everybody's sad about Ozzy Osbourne. not because they knew Ozzy Osbourne, but because they were in the car with them when they were driving down the road, and because they were part of these huge moments in their life. And it's important and it's great. And we just want to honor those people because that's what you're supposed to do.
And I was more sad for Julian McMahon and Michael Madsen just because I feel like we have shouted them out so many times on this podcast.
Oh.
And I was like, oh man, that sucks. Like, just a good working actor sucks.
It does.
Well, enough with all this doom and gloom from our dead ass Dr. Doom.
Doom and gloom. Nice. Nice.
Rip. But we got to get to the current doom, which is looming over the Fantastic Four First Steps. And that's the movie that we watched and we're reviewing on this episode. Nick, just seeing this in theaters, brand new to us, brand new in our brains. We have the duty of giving the audience our pre-pop scores. This is our gut reaction, fresh off the press, hot off the pop scores of what we're thinking we're going to score this movie. And maybe by the end of this podcast, we'll have different thoughts. We'll have a different score. But Nick, I believe that you are reviewing this movie first, which is a little bit unfitting because I picked this movie to watch. But you know what? The order calls. We go in order. We don't bust the deal. We only spin the wheel. So Nick, I'm spinning that wheel and I would love to see your pre-pop score on the count of 4 for Fantastic Four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nick, you said Fantastic Four First Steps is fantastic, more than 4. That is very funny and a lot of bars to clear. Nick, your 3 words to describe your thoughts on this movie. Hit me.
Downright fantastic.
Ooh,
that's what I had to say. That. Ooh, baby. All right. Well, that's what I have. Very ambiguous. A lot of directions that I could go. But James, now it's your turn to show me your pre-pops. So I'm going to count you down from 4, throwing it in reverse. You're going to show me when I count it down from 4. 3, 2, 1, go. James, you said that Fantastic Four First Steps is 4.4 plus 4.4 equals my score. Nice drawing of Herbie on there, by the way. You better be watching on YouTube so you can see that. I see you're taking the 4s, you're taking the 8s, you're taking our whole theme here. You're giving it an 8.8 there on your pre-pops. James, give me 3 words to describe how you feel about this movie.
Nick, I'm going to be cheeky and give you a 4 because that's on motif.
Whoa!
It's fan-freaking-tastic. And yes, those are their own 4 words. Don't at me.
Nobody will.
All right, Nick. So we're feeling good about this movie, and I think we need to pop into it.
Let's do it.
This movie was directed by Matt Shakman. And speaking of that, Nick, you deep dove this guy's IMDb page. What did he direct?
Matt Shakman has directed a lot. Big time TV director. So episodes of WandaVision, 9 episodes of WandaVision.
That was his show. This movie we're about to dive into was in a separate universe than the main 616 universe, but there was one Easter egg to a different MCU project, and it was the Westview TV store. And that was a shout out to WandaVision because it took place in the town of Westview, New Jersey, and it was all about old TV shows. So that was the one little fun Easter egg that Matt Shakman wanted to put in as an honoring a piece of work that was near and dear to his heart.
And I'm sure that sort of propelled him into the Marvel universe. Rightfully so. He did such a good job with that. But yeah, an episode of Succession, one of those shows that your friend tells you to watch, but you never do.
My wife.
An episode of The Boys, a show that I love on Amazon
We're big
Prime.
fans of The Boys.
Big fans. An episode of Billions. But notably, where I got caught up here, James, 43 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, a show that I am a massive fan of.
So this guy's stock skyrocketed in your book.
Well, it just shows range, because if you can do 43 episodes of It's Always Sunny, and then WandaVision and this movie that just has a whole different level of funding and aesthetics and importance in a universe, that is absolute range. So Matt Shakman, yeah, when I saw 43 episodes of It's Always Sunny, I said, all right, Matt.
I knew he was a prolific TV director, but I didn't know he did all those episodes of It's Always Sunny. I knew he was super attached to WandaVision and was a big heavy hitter on the creative side for that. But that's really cool. I'm happy for us in this movie that it was at the helm of a very capable guy.
Yeah, and you can go down the list. I mean, I don't want to shortchange them, but episodes of Fargo, Psych, Mad Men, New Girl, House. I mean, he's been a staple in that TV director universe for a long time. He's not some nobody, right? Like you live in that universe, and that's very. I mean, those are all very versatile projects.
Would this be his first feature directing job?
Not first feature. I'm seeing something called Cut Bank.
Oh yeah, I see that there. Cut Bank.
Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. This is his first premiere silver screen, big budget movie. Like this is really his debut.
Way to just show your chops right out the gate. Nick, who penned this movie?
James, penning this movie is Josh Friedman, Eric Pearson, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. We have four dudes heading up the written by. Josh Friedman, what are you up to? What have you written? Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
War of the Worlds.
Terminator, Dark Fate. Snowpiercer, Avatar, Way of Water.
And Eric Pearson seems like he's a big Marvel writer because he has screenplay by credits for this year's Thunderbolts, Black Widow, and Thor Ragnarok. And looks like he was also a screenwriter on those Marvel shorts they did back around the Avengers time. Marvel one-shots is what they were called. Jeff Kaplan, we have.
I see nothing.
Okay. Wow. Yep. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 credits, and I only recognize one, which is the movie we're watching. Ian Springer, you did this. That was it. Way to go, Mr. Springer.
It looks like he was on projects with Jeff Kaplan, so he probably got brought in a little bit.
Well, that's who is on the pen. Let's see who is in front of the camera. Nick, we have friend of the show, Pedro Pascal from The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which we reviewed in year 1 of our podcast. We have newcomer to the show, Vanessa Kirby, been in the most recent Mission Impossible movies. She was in The Crown. She's been in a bunch of stuff.
Hot actress right now, Vanessa Kirby. She is making her bones.
Yeah, we're talking beautiful and hot, trending in the getting work in Hollywood. So way to go, Vanessa Kirby. Coming up next, we got Joseph Quinn, who we all famously know as Eddie Munson from season 4 of Stranger Things. And rounding out our Fantastic Four, we have Eben Moss Backrack, who is a friend of the show. Nick, pop quiz. Do you remember what movie he was from?
No, this is news to me.
Super small part, super early stages of our podcast. Do you not remember this?
No.
He played the random engineer scientist in Stealth. Remember when they put the curtain over the jet and they're like, I don't want it to hear or see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was the engineer in that movie.
Friend of the show.
He's a friend of the show, baby.
Love that.
And then rounding out our new friends of the show is going to be Julia Garner. And she gave us a super amazing performance in the show Ozark. She's also a very hot actress right now, getting a lot of work. So happy that we have a pretty stellar cast. And I'll tell you what, Nick, this movie is not starring John Malkovich, unfortunately, because while featured in the initial trailer, what seems like was an 11th hour decision, his sequence was cut from the movie. He was going to play Red Ghost with his gang of super intelligent apes. And we got a little bit of montage B-roll of Reed Richards fighting an orangutan, but that's the only traces of John Malkovich's character. And Matt Shakman, who adores the man, said it was a very tough decision to cut him out. But it seems like the main theory is it was due to pacing issues, because that was going to possibly be an opening sequence where the four are fighting this villain, and then it was going to kind of showcase their powers. But I think they just decided, hey, let's just montage it out, because it's not an origin story per se. Let's just get the ball rolling with catching up the casuals.
Question for you, because I was thinking about this. This movie's runtime about an hour 50, hour 55. I'm a person who doesn't mind the over 2 hours movie. Do you think there's a push in Hollywood to keep things sub 2 hours? I know everybody talks about, I don't want to sound like an old fart right now, but kids these days and attention spans and all that thing. But like, I don't mind a 2.5 hour showing if the movie is good. What are your thoughts on the run times in Hollywood?
I'm a firm believer in the movie should be as long as it needs to be to tell the best story it can tell. So that's my thoughts on it. Dirty secret. I feel like I only go to movies and watch these big superhero movies. I really am a terrible movie guy, which is why I do this podcast, so I can expand my horizons. I'm not going to see F1, the movie with Brad Pitt, even though it might be filmed super great. I think it's the same director as Top Gun Maverick, so there's a lot of very innovative shots in that movie, but I'm just not making time or money to go out and see that. I'm trying to see the big nerd stuff. So that's my lane. And if I'm hyped to see something, I'll sit through 3 hours because I don't want it to end. Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, I think definitely Endgame, but I think No Way Home was over 2 hours. And both those movies felt like they just went by in a flash for me because I'm having such a good time. So I'm not a movie should be 90 minutes only kind of guy. I think if the movie has the scale for it, absolutely go nuts. The more, the better for me. If you have a very tight movie that could be told in 75 minutes to 90 minutes, that's cool too. Like, we don't need to drag it on if it doesn't need to be dragged on. I think the early timestamps was that this movie was maybe clocking in at 2 hours, 15 minutes, which for a big tentpole movie from Disney, MCU movie, that seems like perfect. But yeah, it might have just been the creatives thinking, you know what, this just doesn't, it feels like it slows down this introductory montage of us explaining who the Fantastic Four are through this Ed Sullivan type TV show. It's the Ted Gilbert host saying, you all know the story, here we go. And they kind of just catch up everybody because we're not doing the original space mission to space. And then we get hit with cosmic rays and then we get our powers and we're learning how to deal with our powers kind of story. We just need to get the audience up to date because we want to get to the big bad of Galactus.
That's becoming more common. Matt Reeves did this in his most recent Batman iteration with Robert Pattinson, where he said, I'm not telling the origin story anymore. Everyone knows it. And I think it's an interesting choice because, and I think Shakman did it really well here with the, we'll get into it, but like you said, the Ed Sullivan type, the Ted Gilbert show of being able to say, hey, here's a 5 to 7 minutes of here's who we're dealing with and here's how it happened. A lot of superhero movies are leaning more into that of the, hey, you don't care about the origin, you care about who they are now.
It's definitely very popular with the MCU. And when in those early 2000s movies, we really had to get the origin story going because that was when audiences were not necessarily super hip to the superhero comics lore. And same thing where the studios kind of had to make fun of it a little bit where, X-Men 2000, oh, you go walking around in black leather and then James Marsden says, what do you expect? Yellow spandex? And studios were kind of like, we got to kind of point fun at it. And then the script has 100% flipped where we are totally embracing the comic book origins and the silliness and the goofiness. So I just want to point out July 2025, big W for superhero movies. James Gunn's Superman, which I saw in theaters, fantastic. Fantastic Four, it was super. If I'm going to switch over some pun words, those two superhero movies that came out this month, they nailed the spirit of the characters that they were about. And they bypassed the origin story because there's also a meta nature there where we as fans and audiences have already seen the Superman origin story with the Henry Cavill ones or the Richard Donner ones. So we kind of already know it.
Smallville, everything.
Smallville, whatever the Tyler Hoechlin one is, it's like we've kind of seen it all. The Fantastic Four hasn't had a super great origin story in previous features, especially the Josh Trank one. But I think we just kind of want to get to the point of let's get them in their prime. Let's get them in year 7 of their NBA career. They are just knocking down threes. They got finals championships. let's see them in their prime and let's see them in their element. And we saw that with Spider-Man for the MCU. We bypassed the origin story because we had the Tobey one and the Andrew Garfield one. And I think when James Gunn eventually gets to Batman, he says, we're not going to see Martha Wayne's pearls hit the ground in an alleyway. Like we fucking know it. We know
Matt Reeves was the same way. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's
good.
2025. You want lore? Use Google. Like we're going. Like we're going. We're joining the race at lap 20. Like we're in the middle of this. I'm into it.
Big W. The big W.
Big W. Big W. You can't miss it. A big W.
To quote one of the all-time movie, big W for superhero movies in July 2025. James Gunn's Superman was great. Fantastic Four First Steps by Matt Shakman was also great. So, Nick, speaking of being great, one thing to be great with the critics and the fans, it's another thing to be great at the box office. What do we have for dollar amounts here?
James, we have an estimated budget here of around $200 million. Everybody's a little tight-lipped with the budget, but that's about where we're landing at, which we didn't shout him out, but music, Michael Giacchino.
Rogue One. Yeah, Michael Giacchino's on the track, and the last time we saw him on this podcast was Rogue One. And, of course, My Brother the Pig, amongst many others.
Oh, of course. Friend of the show. Worldwide box office at time of recording on this, July 29th. So don't fact check us and be like, well, actually, it's $227 million. But opening weekend, $117 million. We've made back about 55-60% of our budget. As we're recording this, we're past the budget. I think we need to get to probably around 350, 400 to call this a success. I don't think we're going to have an issue getting there if I'm Disney and looking at the numbers for this one. But those are the numbers here. Opening weekend, 117, estimated budget 200, and worldwide up to today, July 29th, 227. So, well, that's crazy because we're recording 2 days after the opening weekend, 3 days. So an extra 100 million is already poured in after the opening weekend. So they're
that's international. But like we learned with last episodes when we were talking about the movie In Time and their box office and their budget, I brought up the most recent Marvel movie, Thunderbolts, which surpassed its budget for box office. But as we found out, that was for some reason a loss for Disney. Whatever kind of overhead fees are involved, it didn't make its money back, apparently. And that might have been the same for Captain America Brave New World. So I feel like Fantastic Four First Steps is finally going to give Disney their W. But let's focus on the opening weekend numbers here. So $117 million, that is the opening for the domestic market. And then, of course, we had the international market, which tacked on that extra $100-ish million. But just to kind of go over some other opening weekend domestic movie performances of this year, I just want to compare it to the big movies that were released this year. So compared to other 2025 releases, our $117 million opening weekend, it did do better than Jurassic World Rebirth, which was at 92 million domestic. International is going to make that movie go crazy. It clocked in just a tick below Superman, which opened to $125 million domestic. So pretty neck and neck. I was curious who was going to win the opening weekend race.
Was Superman a week or 2 weeks before?
Superman was July 11th, I believe.
So 2 weeks. So you kind of, I mean, there's a little bit of like, I'm first.
And you know what? Jurassic World Rebirth they had the cheat code weekend because they were July 4th. So they had that extra day to make money. So, but they still beat them. But then the top two opening weekends of the year, Nick, can you take a wild guess of what they are?
Oh boy, I don't even know what came out this year.
Think about kids movies.
Oh shoot. I don't know what kids movies have come out.
So the second best opening weekend of 2025 so far is at $146 million. And that would be for Lilo and Stitch, which is crazy to me because Disney was going to make that a Disney Plus premiere. They were going to have that be a Disney Plus exclusive. And they said, you know what? Throw it in theaters. And it's spoilers. It's the best performing movie of the year so far.
That one surprised me because I loved Lilo and Stitch, the animated. I didn't think it was big enough to garner that much attention as a live action, but good for Lilo and Stitch.
And the live action remakes, at least in my opinion, have been super underwhelming. Like I saw the Beauty and the Beast. I didn't see the Lion King. I did not see the Will Smith Aladdin. I was like, I don't know. We're millennials. We're going to be old heads and say it's nothing like the old cartoons. So I never saw the Mulan, which I think was a Disney Plus release only. But I didn't think Lilo and Stitch would be the one live action remake to really just hit the ground running, which is crazy.
That is really surprising to me.
Well, what's also really surprising, Nick, is the top grossing opening weekend for this year is a Minecraft movie clocking in at $162.7 million opening weekend domestic. Was that meme driven?
Chicken jockey.
Was that meme driven? You remember when the Minions came out and all those kids dressed up in like suits? It'd be like a gang of 20 to 30 of them. So you're already like you're banking money on ticket sales for just the meme, the dream.
Minecraft might also, somebody could fact check me on this. I think it's the largest video game of all time as far as like player base, everything. So I mean,
the movie
you're coming in and
when the trailer came out, people were not sold on it. They're like, "Oh, this is going to be garbage. This is going to be a bomb," and then it explodes.
Well, they were asking people. You can ask people, but then there's 13-year-olds, and you don't get to put them into a survey. You could put adults into a survey who do not care, and then you have 13-year-olds who get $20 for the weekend. I don't know if this is still how it works, whose parents say, go have fun. And all of those 13-year-olds are going to the movies to watch that movie. So never underestimate the power of kids who stay home and play video games, because I guess they went ahead and, because I was surprised too. I was like, how do you make a movie like Minecraft? It's like when they did a Dungeons and Dragons movie or a World of Warcraft movie. You're like, that's going to flop.
When the movie came out and people were saying like, this is humans going into the game. This isn't Minecraft. This isn't the Minecraft movie. And then I think there might've been a title change, but then the creative said, well, it's not about Minecraft, the game. It's about people like jumping into the Minecraft universe. So that's why we're calling it a Minecraft movie, not the Minecraft movie. All I gotta say to that is chicken jockey.
When Shia LaBeouf said, don't let your dreams be memes, the director said, let's let our memes be dreams. And it has paid off, apparently, in the highest grossing, which will probably be the highest grossing movie of the year. We'll just say that. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Well, Nick, Lilo and Stitch might have something to say about that, because I do want to bring up the movies on that Billy grind, the movies that are hoping to get $1 billion at the box office. Coming in at number one is Lilo and Stitch, which already hit $1 billion worldwide. Gross, baby. Who knew that little blue alien Stitch had it in them?
First off, I love Stitch. I think Stitch is one of those classic Disney sidekicky, can't speak English characters. Absolutely love Stitch. But I mean, does this just say how starved we are for content for kids out in the theaters these days? I mean, we always know that kids' movies do great, but my goodness, I guess they're just that starved for family films.
Well, Pixar's Elio did awful, Nick, because I think
that thing wasn't marketed worth jack shit.
The marketing was awful on that. And also, yes, it's not a beloved property where millennials like us who might have kids who are movie going age at the age of 5 would bring them to the theaters. And we have a special connection to Lilo and Stitch because that was during the turning of the tides in the 2000s when Emperor's New Groove came out, Lilo and Stitch came out, and we were a little bit more zany with the comedy, and it was actually hilarious to watch those movies in theaters as kids. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of a following there, but yeah, Elio from Pixar did nutsacks in the box office. But what didn't do nutsacks in the box office is Minecraft, because it's coming in at $955 million globally. I don't think it's in theaters still, because I remember seeing it on HBO, on live HBO TV when I was in my hotel during my honeymoon.
Crazy.
Jurassic World Rebirth is at $719 million. So they're on that climb. They still are in theaters. And Superman, as of this past weekend, did pass the halfway marker to a billy. They are at $503 million. So let's see if Fantastic Four First Steps can get up there too. I do want to compare it to the other two Marvel movies that came out this year, which would be Captain America Brave New World and Marvel's Thunderbolts. Those opening weekends, Thunderbolts came in at 74.3 million. Brave New World came in at 88.8 million. So Fantastic Four First Steps coming in at 117 million, a little bit more on brand for Disney. And I think Disney is skirting away from doing these lesser known characters. And I think they're only going to focus on big tentpole box office moneymakers from now on.
Yeah. And that honestly, it makes sense. I get that. Especially with the Disney Plus platform where they've sort of set the precedent where they're going to put the lesser known properties on the streaming, the tent poles in the theaters. And as much as a movie like Thunderbolts is good and has good lore, it's hard to drag people into the theaters for something the theaters has become an expensive night out. And I don't know if a lot of Americans want to go out and spend, or not even Americans, people worldwide, things are expensive these days. Do I want to go out with my significant other, spend $50 or a date night and spend $70 to see a movie that I'm not positive is going to knock my socks off? I mean, $70 to do that, it's a big ask. And that's just the state of the world right now.
Yep, exactly. But we definitely were happy to go see the Fantastic Four First Steps in theaters. So, Nick, that is the numbers. That's the comparisons to other movies. We're all caught up live because we're recording this the weekend after we saw officially, as of now, the newest movie we have watched and are about to review on this podcast. Nick, let's get into this movie. I'm going to go ahead, read this log line, and then we can jump into plot talk. Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, Silver Surfer. Alrighty, Nick, this sounds like familiar territory. We've been here, done that with 20th Century Fox's Fantastic Four from the early 2000s. Let's see what the Mickey Mouse Man can do about that. In plot talk.
All right, James, our film opens with what we've kind of talked about. Our Fantastic Four is already established as a team. Their origin story is revisited on our late night show where they are guests on the show. We're talking about them. We're several years into their career. These guys are already celebrities, worldwide celebrities. They're the biggest faces on planet Earth. They have a huge tower. They're just big time. Sue Storm basically is running the UN. Reed Richards is known as the smartest man. Johnny Storm's his playboy self. Ben Grimm, the Thing, he's beloved in the city. Like we said earlier, we have scrapped the whole origin story for just a little TV spot on the Ted Gilbert show, as it's known in the movie. And we're getting our background, and then we're getting to meet our heroes in the post-origin, pre-prime, I'll say, is really where we're at in this movie.
To play on the title, First Steps, I feel like they already have their footing. And it's not only several years into their career, it is specifically 4 years, because there is 4 of them. We're throwing out big 4 motifs in this movie.
We're 4
and Nick, you mentioned the UN. I think this is it's the Future Foundation. So typically in the comics, it's like the company or like the organization that the Fantastic Four runs. But in this movie, it seems like it has replaced the United Nations as like in this world, it's in Universe 828. So in this world, they've accomplished world peace. And there's a funny little Easter egg in there where there's an empty chair where Latveria is the fictional country where Dr. Doom is from. And we're like, oh, okay, so Dr. Doom might already be ruling Latveria in this universe. We're not quite sure if Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom is from this same universe. Is it a different Doom? Who knows? But we're already world building. Nick, we're set in this retro futuristic version of the 1960s. And I got to say, I love this. I feel like this is probably the best setting for the Fantastic Four to be set up in as far as their introduction. Because, Nick, while this is not necessarily an origin story by the superhero terms of getting your powers and whatnot and figuring out how to use them and adapting to the world, it's an origin story for the Fantastic Four for the MCU. And I think it's a great starting point. It's a great birthplace for these guys because I think the best world for them to be introduced in is this utopia-like world. They are the kings of the planet and everybody loves them. And it's not weird that there's superheroes walking around. It's not weird there's a rock man walking around because like we talked about with those early 2000s superhero movies, a lot of it had to do with being grounded in reality and having like those random passersby on the street be like, oh, look at that guy. Oh, look at that. That's crazy. What? There's alien? Like, no. And same thing with James Gunn's Superman. James Gunn is like, no, like metahumans exist in this universe. We're not going to make like, that's just going to waste time. And this is how it is. So A, I like that we're just bypassing the origin story. B, I love the aesthetic in this movie. It actually does remind me of the other best Fantastic Four movie we ever got, which was The Incredibles, which has a very similar Silver Aged era theme to it. The Tim Story Fantastic Fours were modern 2000s. Like, we got to make it fun and sleek costumes, and we got to point out some silly stuff. And then the Josh Trank one, don't even go there.
Never saw it.
No, we're embracing the origins, and this is the best kind of setting where the Fantastic Four can shine.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Fantastic Four in and of themselves are a cheesy property a little bit, right? Like you're saying, we're born in the 60s, like a lot of what would historians would call like an American golden age, right? Where it's just America and you go to work and you fly your flag and you have your picket white fence. Like, this is the property that really embodies a lot of that. And these characters embody a lot of that, right? Where, oh yeah, we're Americans. We love our celebrities, our late night shows. Like, it feels like this needs to exist in this time, in this universe, and trying to ground the Fantastic Four in the modern day world doesn't work. We tried it, right? We saw the old 2000s Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfers, and it's almost too cheesy for a grounded world. But the Fantastic Four, they are cheesy, and they were made to be a little cheesy. Living in this world, this aesthetic, this universe is perfection. This is really the best way to do it, and just hats off to everyone involved, all the creatives involved, for recognizing that this was the best way to bring the Fantastic Four into the Marvel universe. I mean, just all the way around. Perfection. Chef's kiss, man.
Big chef's kiss. I'm going to super glaze the production design. I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved. Thank you for the graphic visual. If you can't see the visual, we are on YouTube.
We're glazing.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. We are on X at Just Play It Pod, where we pick movies and just play it. But Nick, the production designer Kazra Farhani, who is known for Loki, absolutely cooked in this movie. Nick, the world that we are in is beautiful. It is practical. We are saying to hell with CGI where it's not needed. We have a lot of built sets. We have a Times Square set in this 828 retro-futuristic 1960s New York. Reed's lab, we have big chalkboards that are curved and they pop out of the bottom mount. Very 60s, 70s chairs and just crazy colors of research labs and real sets and real tangible things. And when we get into it later, we meet the Fantastic Four and we talk about their, like, the Ben Grimm's The Thing did have a practical reference point. They had a real suit. When we meet Galactus, he's going to have a real suit. This is Ralph Ineson playing Galactus, which is just god tier casting. Honestly, no pun intended, as he is a godlike being, but
the whole casting.
Okay, I need to look who did this casting.
Because I don't want to cut you off, James, but the casting of this movie, it might be the best casting I've seen in years.
Sarah Finn, casting director. You absolutely cooked.
Unreal job.
Sarah went crazy. Just to kind of touch upon our quote unquote baddies. So Ralph Ineson is going to be Galactus in this movie. They put him in a practical suit. and they are going to do motion capture, but they're also going to have a suit for visual effects scan so that if they need to do CGI, they have a reference point, and he's not going to be a cloud. We're not going Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, all CGI suit. We are trying to be as tangible and as practical as we can, where we can. And Julia Garner, I think, played an excellent Shala Ball in this movie. It's very different because the last movie we saw the Silver Surfer in, which was Fantastic Four as a Silver Surfer, played by Doug Jones physically, voiced by Lawrence Fishburne. I think he was painted silver and actually on set, but they obviously did use special effects from Weta to make him a little bit more chromy and shiny. Julia Garner in this one is a little bit, or she is mostly motion capture with like the things on her. So everyone's on set and they're acting. Same thing with Eben Moss-Backrack. He's either in a mocap suit or he's in a reference thing practical outfit. And then they just CGI the face.
Okay. Is this guy good or what?
I thought the casting was crazy.
No notes. 0 notes on the casting.
February 14th, 2024, Valentine's Day. This is when the cast of the Fantastic Four was announced. I personally remember this Instagram post from Marvel Studios on my social medias. When you first heard about the casting, what was your initial reaction? Because I do have thoughts of my initial reaction. I do remember it, but what was your initial reaction to hearing about who was playing Marvel's first family?
Skeptical of Mr. Fantastic, because grabbing someone who's that hot in Hollywood, I'm always a big fan of lesser known actors getting brought into these larger roles and getting to grow with the role. So I was very excited at the time for the Sue Storm because I didn't know a lot about Vanessa Kirby at the time. Very excited about Johnny Storm, Joseph Quinn. Didn't know a lot about even Moss-Backrack. I mean, I was very excited there, and I was skeptical of Mr. Fantastic. I was skeptical. I remember being excited and then just a tiny bit reserved on that one, because whenever you bring in one of the hottest actors in Hollywood into a role like that, it
could get dicey. Yeah, it could get a little bit like, oh, we're just grabbing a hot name for the sake of having a hot name.
Exactly.
I think we had very similar reactions to it, because when I saw it, I thought, okay. And I didn't see it. I didn't see the magic that was going to play out a year and a half later, because I had the same thoughts and reservations about Pedro Pascal, because everyone's just grabbing him. He's the Mandalorian. He's in The Last of Us. He's like, literally, he's being inserted in everything, and it's almost becoming like a meme. And you're like, okay, are we just getting a big name for the sake of getting a big name, or is he literally the best man for the job? Vanessa Kirby, same thing. I was like, okay, I don't know who you are. I've probably seen you, and I have, in those Mission Impossible movies and in other projects and stuff like that. But you stick out in my mind as like a household name, not because you don't deserve it, just because I don't watch the movie. Oh, she was in Hobbs and Shaw. I think she was Jason Statham's sister in that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, the Hobbs and Shaw chick. Okay. And then I was like, okay, Joseph Quinn, Eddie Munson. I was like, all right, I don't see it right now, but okay. And then I saw Eben Moss-Backrack, and I thought I love him in The Bear. I loved him in his very limited story arc in Andor. And I thought, okay, I mean, he's going to be Ben Grimm the Thing, so we're not going to really see a whole lot of him, because when you think of Michael Chiklis, he already kind of looks like the Thing, because he's just a little like stubby bald guy. And you're like, oh, it makes perfect sense. And then when I see Eben Moss-Backrack act in this movie, I thought, wow, what a great iteration of Ben Grimm. And when I see Joseph Quinn go to work as Johnny Storm, I'm like, wow, what a great interpretation of Johnny Storm. And then when Vanessa Kirby is in this movie, I'm like, wow, finally a good Sue Storm. This movie, I'll talk about Mr. Fantastic real quick. Pedro Pascal, I thought was actually a really good Reed Richards. I like the 2005-2007 cast. I think they also nailed it with the cast, besides Jessica Alba. She was a little bit miscast, but I like the cocky, campy Chris Evans. I like Ioan Gruffudd's nerdy performance. I love Michael Chiklis and that he was so enthusiastic to play Ben Grimm. I like that cast, but this cast, Pedro Pascal played a great, dare I say, a fantastic Mr. Fantastic. Let me just say, this movie had a big job of finally doing Sue Storm right. Because Sue Storm has been done so dirty in the Tim Story ones, in the Josh Trank ones. And the Josh Trank one, Sue Storm doesn't even go in the ship and get hit by the cosmic rays. It's all the dudes. It's Ben, it's Johnny, it's Reed, and then it's Victor Von Doom. They all get their powers up there, and Sue's back on Earth. And then she gets her powers, I think, in like a lab or something. I don't know. I saw it one time.
Never saw it.
It's a shit show. We never saw the Roger Corman 1994.
Still on the list?
Fantastic Four. But it is on the list. But I thought this movie really had to do Sue Storm right and have her not just be the girl in the room. And I think it did just that. And so casting, I'm rating high. Nick, what would you rate the casting? You can just say top tier, mid tier, bottom tier.
A+, baby.
A+ casting.
Top to bottom, even the background characters, side characters. Innocent, like you said, was just a fantastic Galactus. Fantasticus.
Are we subconsciously going to say fantastic all the time?
Yeah, we might have to.
The Fantasticus.
All the way up and down, there was no point in the movie or after the movie where I was like, that person didn't really do it for me. No, top tier casting. I have some things to say about Mr. Fantastic. I'll hold it till a little later. But Pedro Pascal did a great job as Reed Richards. He did. For the part he was written,
I didn't think it was like a stunt casting or like not stunt casting, but like big name casting. I thought he did a superb job. So I would also rate the casting top tier. Nick,
yeah,
I shouted out Roger Corman's 1994 Fantastic Four movie that was unreleased, which we are going to watch and review this year to round out our Fantastic Four. That's going to be the fourth Fantastic Four movie we will watch for the year. But Nick, we have some cameos from that cast from that movie because we have Alex Hyde White. Alex Hyde White, who played Reed Richards in the unreleased Roger Corman Fantastic Four from 1994. Rebecca Stabb, who played Sue Storm from that movie. Jay Underwood, who played Johnny. And Michael Bailey Smith, who played Ben Grimm. I think there's two actors in that movie that played the Thing, Ben Grimm. One might have been the suit, one might have been the voice. But this actor, amongst the other Fantastic Four actors from that movie, they do make cameos as thankful citizens because we have that montage of, thank you, Fantastic Four. Thank you. You're the best. So they have their own little circle bubble on that opening montage, and they are a foursome, and they're thanking the Fantastic Four. And I obviously am not going to clock that in the theaters, and I'm going to find that out later, but I love that. Alex Hyde White, who also voices a newscaster on the radio when they're driving the Fantastic car, he's going to make a vocal cameo as well. Rebecca Stabb is also credited as Channel 9 newscaster Carolyn Haynes. And then also Jay Underwood and Michael Bailey Smith, they're going to make a second cameo playing those thankful power plant civilians when Johnny Storm sucks all the fire from that industrial fire disaster. And then I love this detail. Jay Underwood, who played Johnny in the 1994 Fantastic Four movie, is the one to salute our new Joseph Quinn Johnny when he takes care of the fire disaster. And I love that. I love that those guys were included in the movie.
That's so cool.
Doug Jones, who played the Silver Surfer in Rise of Silver Surfer, he was also invited to the premiere. So I think it's great that those guys are getting their credits, their flowers, they're invited. They're part of the party. They like us.
Yeah.
They're part of the fam.
A little homage, a little bit of, hey, we understand this stuff came before us. Maybe it's not as good as what we're doing, but it was still there. I love that. I didn't know any of those cameos you just brought up to me, and that just makes me love this even more. It makes me love the production. Shakman, whoever was involved in that decision, I'm just a big fan of that. That's so cool.
And we're big fans of this movie. So, and you know who's big fans of the Fantastic Four? These citizens, because we're living in this utopia version of New York City, and our main two, husband and wife of the Fantastic Four, they are expected parents. Human Torch and the Thing, Johnny and Ben, they have that classic relationship of the brothers who pick on each other and just kind of razz each other and just get on each other's nerves. We've seen that be played out, honestly, pretty funny in the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies. And then we got Herbie. Nick, we have the robot, Herbie, which I do want to point out, rounding out the casting, Matthew Wood voices Herbie, and he is also the voice behind General Grievous.
No.
For realsies, dude. He's always in the sound department, and I feel like when they're like, hey, can you just hop in the booth and say some stuff? He's there. He has a lot of voice acting credits, so that just elevated the casting in my book. We got General Grievous as a tiny robot.
General Kenobi.
Hello there.
Something Disney is just so damn good at is creating those lovable side characters. I think that is their secret sauce. In every good movie they've had, which is a ton, hundreds maybe, they always have a lovable side character. And so when you introduce someone like Herbie, who is just that little bit of comic relief, a little bit of that physical comedy in there, it adds so much to it. Absolutely love it. And like you said, it's almost like a Jetsons family thing, right? Where there's this little bit of technology in there. There's all this futuristic stuff. It's this retro futuristic, but we're still interacting like a family.
And Nick, can I throw something out about Herbie that's a fun fact?
Let me know it.
The reason why he's here is because apparently in the animated show, The New Fantastic Four, they replaced the Human Torch with a robot named Herbie because the TV rights for the character of the Human Torch were tied up for a movie that actually never got made. So they needed to have a fourth member of the Fantastic Four. So Herbie was born as a substitute for the Human Torch, and then has developed into the lore of the comic books and the TV shows, and now the Fantastic Four first steps.
Marvel with their damn character rights. I'll tell you what, it's a tale as old as time with those guys.
And honestly, the Josh Trank Fantastic Four is what people think it was the big motivator for Fox to sell pretty much all their rights to Disney.
Well, because we've talked about it, right? I think the deal was you have to make a movie every 7 years. Yep. And so the Josh Trank was their attempt to say, hey, we're making another movie.
Yeah, it was, they started making it in 2014, which was 7 years after Rise of the Silver Surfer came out. So yeah, when we do the Roger Corman one, we'll get all into that. But yes, there was a rights issue.
And then they were finally like, okay, we can't do this. We need Disney and Marvel
that was the final
take the
straw.
property.
Yeah, that was the final straw.
Like, okay, we can't do this. But our family, everything's going good. We're celebrities. We're living our life until something big comes to Earth, James. And this is our Silver Surfer. Like you said, this is Julia Garner. Fantastic. Again, we're shoehorning fantastic into everything. Just a fantastic portrayal.
I was watching interviews with director Matt Shakman, and he kept using the word fantastic. And I thought that must be just super subconscious because it is an easy word to throw out. And I feel like if we weren't talking about Fantastic Four, we use that word a lot anyway. But I guess take a shot every time we say it. Sorry if you pass out from alcohol poisoning.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Say that again?
Nick, when Julia Garner's Silver Surfer, who is not a female recast of the Silver Surfer, calm down, you people on the internet who are angry about quote unquote woke culture when this doesn't even have anything to do with it.
Because woke.
Your planet is now marked for death. Your world will be consumed by the Devourer.
Shallabal is a character from the comics, actually the love interest of our Silver Surfer from the 2007 movie, Norrin Rad. They're both from the planet Zen-La. So Shallabal is going to be our Silver Surfer for this movie. And Nick, I threw out some fun cameos with the 94 Fantastic Four cast. I do have some, not cameos, but homages. When the Silver Surfer arrives in Times Square, there is a cutaway to two gentlemen. It's a younger version of both Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the main two guys at Marvel Comics. There's a Timely Comics sign on the wall, which was the original iteration of Marvel Comics. It actually was rebranded to Atlas Comics in 1951. And then that was rebranded to Marvel Comics in 1961, which is when the Fantastic Four first debuted. So instead of getting our Stan Lee cameo, because he unfortunately passed away, it seems like we get an homage of, oh, this is, since we're in the 60s, this is what a young Stan and a young Jack Kirby would have looked like. And Jack Kirby really gets a lot of shout outs in this movie, which I absolutely love because I feel like people only think of Stan Lee, who was more of the writer's side. Kirby, I saw this documentary which explained their dynamic where they were trying to really pump out comics, and there was not like tension, but just a little bit of like a who's the real storyteller here, because Kirby would do the animation and pretty much storyboard the entire comics, and then Stan Lee would go in and fill in the word bubbles. So they said, oh, this is written by Stan Lee, but then Jack Kirby would say, no, it's also written by me because I'm the one paneling this out, and you can tell what the story is just by the panels because of facial expressions or action. So I love that Jack Kirby finally gets his time to shine with this homage and this cameo, and he gets a quote in the credits. And Nick, a fun Easter egg about this movie, Universe 828, it's a shout out to Jack Kirby's birthday because that is August 28th. Jack Kirby's getting his flowers in this one. I love that they did this. I love this detail. I obviously, again, I didn't notice this in the movie. I'm finding this out from deep dive nerds after the fact, but I have to bring it up because I do love that. And I think it's important for those creators to get their time to shine.
100% agree. Jack Kirby is the unsung hero of a lot of comics. There's a lot of examples of this in other comic book companies where, yeah, you have like, oh, I thought of this. And it's like, but did you put the work in? And a guy like Jack Kirby put a lot of work in. I'm not saying that Stan Lee wasn't important or they weren't friends. And whatnot,
we're not bringing Stan Lee down. We want to bring Jack Kirby up on the same plane and be like, he also deserves his cameos.
He deserves everything that Stan Lee had as well. So, yeah, it's great. And the Silver Surfer is great. Like you said, it's not a woke thing. Galactus has heralds. He's had multiple heralds throughout the course of the comics.
Big herald guy.
Ghost Rider becomes his herald. I mean, he runs through them like crazy. So this is just an iteration of one of his heralds. So don't be all worked up about anything. It's a comic book. Don't. It's not that deep, guy. It's not that deep. Just let it happen. Like it's fine.
When Shallabal shows up, I love that. I don't know what it is, but I just love, I think it must be the setting. Again, we're in that retro futuristic Times Square, the practical set. There's a big like manhole cover on the ground that the Fantastic Four are standing on. I think it was a plaque for when they defeated the big monster that Mole Man sent up because he was angry. He hates the Fantastic Four and he hates the people. I think he calls them Sunshiners. And he represents the people of Subterranea,
the surface dwellers.
The surface dwellers. But I don't know what it was. I just love that as soon as they saw the asteroids or the comets coming in, they have dinner every Sunday at 7 on the dot. And I love that Johnny just springs into action and everybody just hops in the Fantastic Car. And there's the way they like roll up and hop out. And there's that sick wide shot of the four standing there. And Ben Grimm is like in a power stance and like his button-up shirt and tie, and the Fantastic Cars behind them, and all the 1950s suits and fedora people are behind. I think it's Halloween in the universe, so there's people in costume, and everyone's captivated by Shia LaBeouf. I thought, man, like I'm having so much fun being in this world. And again, it comes down to I'm loving the aesthetic and I'm loving the setting because it's not like whoa, people are freaking out. It's like this is kind of normal. People aren't like going hysterical. There's threats. There's like Mole Man. There's big monsters coming out. There's a guy with apes running around. So it's fun to be in a world where we're not poking fun at it. We're just embracing it. And I just had to point that out.
I couldn't agree more. And that kind of feeds into what I was going to say next. So Shia LaBeouf, our Silver Surfer, Julia Gardner, she doesn't attack. There's no physical threat. But she informs the Fantastic Four that their Earth has been marked for destruction by Galactus.
I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus.
And then she takes off. And this is going to be, and I'll talk about it later even more, but what this movie captures is this human experience of fear, of reality, right? And people are starting to freak out, right? Can you save us? Fantastic Four, are you our heroes? Can you deal with this threat? Like you said, there's a reality behind this, and it's not grounded in our reality, in 2025's reality, but the world builds this reality, and that now there's this emotional connection. And I think superhero movies get this wrong. It's honestly something I've always liked about Batman, especially Christopher Nolan's Batman, where the world gets gripped by fear, and there's this whole universe that's happening. And sometimes in a lot of superhero movies, we get this like, oh, it's the hero and the bad guy, and it's black and white, and everybody's behind the hero and the bad guys, and there's no underlying population and fear. And this movie does such a good job of connecting you emotionally to, holy shit, if I was in this universe and I just saw this TV broadcast where somebody told me my world was marked for death, and now I have to question if my heroes can deal with this. That's a gripping reality.
Yeah, but what I love about this universe is that the people do not question their heroes. They think they are Jesus Christ, which is great.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we got this.
Yeah, they're like, another mole man, red ghost, just another day at the office.
And we're going to go down this rabbit hole of how that starts to unravel. So something that's kind of fun to me is we're not going to go punch our way through it. We're going to say we're going to go find Galactus. We're going to go reason with him. We're going to go negotiate, right? We're a little more sophisticated than those Earth 616 guys who just go fists a-flying at every problem.
Don't even have the civilians on their side.
Yeah, we're going to have some diplomacy here, right? Sue Storm is part of our future foundation. She knows how to speak to some diplomacy, and we're going to go reason with them. And I think this is just such a change of pace from a lot of our superhero movies where we're building up this bad guy. We're saying there's this unknown guy. He's threatened our world. And instead of going into just clobbering time mode, we're going into negotiation mode. So we track him. Reed Richards, again, we don't have to be like, oh, he's super smart. He's figured out how to track planets. This technology, or he already has it. He's finding these energy signals. He knows where the Silver Surfer's been. He knows these planets have been destroyed. So this is a real threat. We're starting to kind of feel the gravity of our big bad here, but we know where she's going next, and we're going to go there. We have a spaceship that hasn't been flown since our moment when we got our powers. Reed Richards is still a little iffy about all that. He apologizes to Ben.
Yeah, he has a lot of guilt of not foreseeing this and not having their space outfits, uniforms, not being able to handle the cosmic ray blast that gave everybody their power. So he does have this residual guilt of not knowing and feeling like he cursed his family, especially his best friend, Ben Grimm, who has changed his appearance forever permanently, and he can't go incognito mode. And that's why they came out and they said, you know what? Hey, we're all the Fantastic Four. We're all celebrities. Take your eyes off Ben. Look at all four of us, which I think is a great character portion of Reed Richards. It's not fame. It's just like share the attention so that Ben Grimm isn't like the sore rock thumb walking around Yancey Street in this version of New York.
We're going to go meet Galactus. And so I was really excited for this portion because doing a big bad that is so grandiose, that is so much larger than life, that is this earth shattering bad guy. It's like, oh, if you watch a movie like this, you have a little anxiety of, are you going to be able to pull off this villain who's so big? He's not Thanos, who's you can CGI in. Like, this guy is bigger than a planet. And so how are you going to do this? Well, we're going to find out because we're going to get in our spaceship. We're going to do FTL, faster than light. And we're going to jump all the way across the universe. We're going to get to this planet. Galactus is on this giant ship that destroys the planets, breaks it down for him to eat. He's a planet eater.
Ship is called Ta-2 because he's from the planet Ta, and this is the only home he knows. So he named it Ta-2, a.k.a. the World Ship, which is, I believe, the size of a solar system. Massive.
Huge. Just devours planets.
Literally. And that's what we run into when our Fantastic Four take the Excelsior ship to the World Ship, which is in the process of devouring a planet for Galactus. Nick, a little Stan Lee shout out here. The ship is called Excelsior because that was Stan Lee's catchphrase, which is also the state of New York's motto, Excelsior, which means ever upward, which is just great. I think it's on theme with the space race theme. Matt Shakman said that this movie was going to be heavily influenced by the Apollo 11 documentary and
nice.
The Right Stuff. A lot of that stock footage, 4:3 aspect ratio, was inspired by that space race. And a little fun detail in this movie, it's not called NASA. I think it's called ANSA. I think it's American, whatever NASA stands for.
National Space
Administration. Yeah. It's ANSA because I think in this universe, since we have world peace, there wasn't a Cold War and there wasn't a space race. So that's just another little world building hint that this is a little bit of a utopia type universe, which I thought was great. But we bring the Excelsior to Tatu in the world ship. And when we meet Galactus, I'm like, wait, I thought he was a giant cloud. What's going on here? No, he is super.
Hey, Tim Story, what did you sell me?
He's finally comic book accurate. He's got the big antlers. He is color correct. Like we said, Ralph Ineson was, I don't know if you ever heard this full talk, but he literally has like the deepest, graveliest. He has the deepest gravitas.
You know, he is this huge cosmic force, and he doesn't kind of speak, he makes decrees. So almost all his lines are pretty powerful ones.
I didn't see it, but Sarah Finn, our casting director, sure did, because they cast Galactus perfectly. They're sizing him up through visual effects. We get the lit up eyes, just like on that popcorn bucket. He's a baddie for the sake of being a baddie. He's kind of throwing out jabs. He's like saying like, oh, you guys are insignificant to me. He calls them clever little bugs later. When we meet him, we're going to figure out his agenda. Shalabal already announced that Earth was doomed for death. And Galactus has now picked up on the fact that Sue Storm is pregnant with Franklin Richards, who possesses the power cosmic. Now, I don't think he has the power cosmic necessarily in the comics, but in this movie he does. But in the comics, he is going to be an Omega level mutant. So he's going to be a big character in the MCU going forward. And then basically here, Galactus says, oh, you know what? You can give me your planet or you can give me your baby. So then we have our ultimatum from Galactus. It's like, oh, that's a shitty situation to be in. Very, very much like The Last of Us, speaking of Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about adding a layer of depth to this movie. So, like we were saying before, there is the whole concept of just the black and white. Like, that's a bad guy. He has bad motives, bad intentions, and your purpose is to defeat him. What this movie does, as far as adding the human element of, oh, my heroes are supposed to sacrifice their own body to beat the bad guy. And now you're adding in a layer of, no, they need to sacrifice the most important thing to them that's not themselves. Adds a whole extra layer of emotional depth that I haven't seen in a movie, in a comic movie. I can't tell you.
I was going to say, it's almost like The Dark Knight when there's the ship full of civilians and the ship full of prisoners, and each of them has a detonator for the other ship. And that's what made that movie great for me. It was that moral dilemma that made that movie a standout for me in that third act. I totally agree with you. The decision of, do I save my world or do I sacrifice my child? Very Old Testament.
100%. Is anybody, this sounds really bad. Anybody can sacrifice themselves. But what do you do in the moment when you're asked to sacrifice more than yourself? And like you said, make that moral decision. Are faced with the moral dilemma, what are you going to do? How are other people going to react to that? And we're going to find that out here in a minute, but not everybody's going to agree with you. Everybody agrees with you when you're going to sacrifice yourself to save them. But what if you're asked to sacrifice something else? I mean, the connection to the audience at that moment of, hey, you have this moral decision that even the audience doesn't know what you're supposed to do. Like, everyone in the audience has a different thought process. Should you sacrifice your child to save the earth? Should you not? I'm sure it's like a 50-50 split of, if you ask the audience, what would you do in this scenario? And so now you have this whole other connection to the audience of, I'm very invested into this now, because now you have two really bad decisions. It's so good. So,
and speaking of so good, Nick, when we find this out and Galactus says, give me the Earth or give me the child, and then he kind of starts to get a little bit unhinged here. And he says, you know what? I'm going to eat your world while your child watches. So Galactus is all about having his cake and eating it too. And I thought, oh, you
doesn't
are
have
bad.
to choose.
You are bad. So when we discover that he wants little baby unborn Franklin Richards, he wants him because he possesses the power cosmic. And he says that Franklin Richards can take over his throne and basically end his misery of being this cosmic force, of always needing that never ending hunger for worlds. And the only way to satisfy that hunger is to eat planets. So he's like, put me on my misery. Give me that baby. I'll take him. But of course, our Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family, is like, this is family. And they're about to jet out of there. And then Silver Surfer, Shia LaBeouf, needs to now get this baby. And through the force of the power cosmic, Galactus is now influencing Sue Storm to have her baby prematurely. And Nick, we get probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, a hell of a sequence. We get this chase from the Silver Surfer chasing the Excelsior. And this baby delivery scene was intense. Nick, I got notes. Franklin's birth scene. So first off, we get some awesome Silver Surfer action sequences. Tim Story's Rise of Silver Surfer. I remember liking that little mini chase sequence that Johnny Storm gives chase to Norrin Radd through New York City, and then they go to Washington, D.C., and they end up going up into space. I thought that was really captivating and cool. I think that was my favorite scene from that movie, which doesn't say a whole lot because it was all just CGI action. But this scene has so much drama in it. It has intensity in it. And I just loved it. So when everyone got their own time to shine, Ben Grimm is known as being the best pilot in the Fantastic Four. So he's piloting the Excelsior. Johnny hops on the gun, and then the gun rays are not hitting Silver Surfer because they're getting warped by the black hole or the vortex, whatever it is. Before this, when they're making their escape on the world ship, everyone's kind of trying to get their licks in on Silver Surfer. And I think Ben Grimm is able to tackle her, but it doesn't fend her off for long. But Sue Storm, while pregnant, ends up like force choking her via Darth Vader powers. And she's the only one that kind of disarms Silver Surfer, who has proven to be super fast, super powerful because she has been gifted the power cosmic from Galactus. Everyone's trying to get their hits in on Silver Surfer, but Sue's the only one who can really disarm her for the moment. When they make their escape, she is giving birth. And I love that Reed Richards is finally not being all brainiac. He is being a loving father, and he's thinking of his pregnant wife and says, we need to be calm. You need gravity to push the baby out. So he uses his little stretching ability to like hold her down on a table. Meanwhile, there's this intense action sequence happening in the background. It's so crazy. And even Sue, while pregnant, makes the Excelsior ship invisible so that they can kind of pull a big brain play and trick Shia LaBeouf into going into a black hole, go through some time dilation, kind of put her behind by 1 month, buy them some time for when they go back on Earth. And then they are also dealing with a broken ship. So we're being chased by this crazy silver lady. We have a baby birth happening in the background. And Michael Giacchino's music score is like hitting these crazy opera choruses. And then all of a sudden we need to do a slingshot maneuver. And Nick, there's a little bit of some movie Easter eggs here. First one, not really a movie, but Apollo 13, the mission where they went to the moon. They utilized the slingshot maneuver that Apollo 13 did IRL to make it home after their ship was damaged. They did a slingshot around the moon. And then this one, they're doing the slingshot around the star. And the other Easter egg that actually is related to our franchise of the year, Reed says they need to hit 0.88 the speed of light, which is a Back to the Future reference, 88 miles an hour, which I thought was fun.
88,
yeah. So 0.88 the speed of light. And that's when we need to make our exit. That's how we need to make our slingshot. The visuals of this scene And the back and forth editing of that intense action sequence of piloting a spacecraft, outmaneuvering the Silver Surfer, and then the back and forth between Sue trying to push out baby Franklin, all while the Michael Giacchino track is hitting its crescendo and it intensifies. And then we escape Shala Ball. We make the jump. We have the baby born all concurrently. It was fantastic. So the Fantastic Four and now 5 and the audience were rewarded with this quiet, magical, major victory moment in a scene that moments ago seemed like there was this big looming doom of meeting Galactus. He said, I'm going to come for your world, or I'm coming for your kid. And then we kind of get to take a breather from all the action when Franklin is born and we make the escape. And just the intensity, the beautiful cinematography, and the emotional swells of the whole entire sequence, I thought, wow, this was probably the best baby delivery scene I've ever seen in the movie. Granted, Nick, this has a lot going for it because we're in space and we're outrunning a herald of Galactus. But I have to ask you the question, despite all the compelling things happening in the sequence, as far as baby delivery scenes, can you really think of some? Like, I can think of some, but they don't stick out to me.
No, I 100% agree with you. And I think something that added to the scene, the intensity, was how uncomfortable it was. Just as somebody sitting in the audience to, like delivering a baby is an uncomfortable experience, right? And it should be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So as a member of the audience, I'm seeing this intensity. I'm hearing this woman just screaming, pushing, trying to do all this, make the ship invisible and push the baby out. And her husband is there trying to comfort her. And at the same time, there's this galactic threat, and it's intense and uncomfortable. I can't remember the last time I was uncomfortable in a scene like this, where I'm
but
like,
also
oh my God, what is happening? 100%, right? Like, you have to be captivated. That's how uncomfortable you are. And so, no, to answer your question very frankly, I can't remember a baby birth scene like this.
Like a TV show or a movie. I'm thinking of, like, Knocked Up, I feel like was kind of memorable because it was just very raw and real, but nothing really, not cinematic, not special to the story necessarily. And then Juno, I remember liking the movie Juno a lot, which was all about pregnancy. But Nick, I have to admit something. I hate pregnant story arcs, and a lot of like women writers that I hear review movies, and just critics I hear, they also hate pregnant story arcs because it almost seems lazy. They're almost insinuating that, oh, these guys don't know how to write women. And the guys in the writer's room are like, how do we make them emotional and interesting? Make them pregnant. And I hate that because, like, it's never interesting to me. And it just seems like
there's no payoff.
They're throwing the pregnancy challenge at this character just to make the character have some sort of meaning. But Nick, I have to say, this is the first time I actually was like invested in the pregnancy, invested in the baby delivery, because Franklin Richards is going to be a crazy player in the MCU to come, and we all know that. But just the way this scene was shot, the editing, the music, and the stakes, I actually really cared. And not gonna lie, NGL, I shed a tear because it was so beautifully shot. I loved the emotional swells in the music, and it actually made me think, wow, this is a pregnancy and a baby birth that is hyperly important to not only this movie, but also this entire cinematic universe. And it wasn't a lazy way of saying, how do we make Sue Storm interesting? Make her pregnant. No, Sue Storm is already interesting. She's doing so much work in this movie. And it just made me think of other pregnancy storylines when they made, Lori and The Walking Dead pregnant. I just thought, you're a giant liability now. It's going to be super obvious or super telegraphed when you're in a scene and there's walkers. You're going to be a liability, and we're going to be all like, oh no, she's pregnant. She's got a baby. She can't move. No, Sue is like, I'm force choking this bitch. I'm making this ship invisible. And this scene was, we said it before, fantastic.
Great scene. And you have a guy like Reed Richards, who is the smartest man, who can handle a lot of situations. and he's scrambling a bit. Ben's scrambling. Johnny's scrambling a bit because he was trying to fight the Silver Surfer. He got knocked out. He ran out of oxygen. He's trying to get his wits about him. It's chaotic. It's uncomfortable, but it's captivating. It's this whole scene. There's so much going on.
It was so good.
It was great scene.
I loved it.
Yeah.
What I love next, Nick, is when we land back on Earth, Reed Richards is immediately shoved into a podium and a microphone, and they're supposed to talk to their Utopia citizens. And I love that the citizens just assume that they defeated Galactus.
Could you take us through how you defeated Galactus?
It reminded me of Pleasantville with Tobey Maguire, where there was a lot of like Leave It to Beaver, like meh, 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 like we're all happy and good, like oh another day in the beautiful sunshiny Pleasantville town, and then they get hit with reality, and the Fantastic Four look shook. Their body language looks like they reek of the truth they need to tell their parents that they broke the glass vase. Ben Grimm's the first one to say it.
We didn't.
Not yet. Not yet, we didn't.
We didn't defeat Galactus. And Johnny Storm chimes in and says, not yet, like trying to keep up like the emotional, like, hey, like we didn't let you down yet. And then it was so like, I kind of hate the citizens of New York for this because they just immediately turn on the four and they're like, what? You didn't do it? But I also loved it because they're so conditioned to the Fantastic Four being like Jesus Christ. And then when Reed is like lost, he's the man with all the answers, but he doesn't have an answer in this moment. Sue's in the back cradling Franklin. Nobody's even asking about the baby. Thanks, guys. They reveal the ultimatum that Galactus gave them, which was we're giving them the Earth or we're giving them baby Franklin. And the citizens are outraged that they didn't immediately sacrifice their then unborn child. And it really provided a lot of insight to this world of like, oh, you guys are pretty sheltered and you don't know what loss is. And you don't know defeat because the Fantastic Four have been fantastic so far. But I loved this part.
And this is that emotionality I'm talking about. This is that connection where if you're the audience, right, you imagine yourself as one of those citizens of New York, and who would you be? Everybody likes to believe they'd be the person who'd say, we're not giving up the baby, but you might be.
Yeah.
You might be that person who makes that weird moral decision of one life versus many. You might be the person who says, no, we're going to fight Galactus. But in reality, 90% of us would be, you should give up your baby to save us all. And so you add this extra moral tug of war to the rest of the movie. And when Reed announces it to the rest of the world, it's a little crazy because he says it not as a matter of fact, but a matter of shock, which is like, I can't believe I just faced this galactic presence who asked us to give up our kid. And he's almost talking to the people of New York like, that's crazy, right? Like, that's crazy. We said no, right? Like, you all agree with us. And then the audience, the crowd looks at him like he's crazy.
Yeah.
And you see this moment in his eyes where he's like, well, we didn't make that decision, right? And there's no positive feedback, which he's so used to all this positive feedback, and the whole crew is, and it's this weird disconnect where it's like you're the heroes now almost becoming the villains. It's so good.
You're gonna fail us, and you're not even gonna like that. You're okay with that, and I feel like it's the first time where the heroes need to swallow their pride and accept defeat. And imagine like you're just an undefeated team, and then all of a sudden you lose, and then you're like, oh, like losing is a possibility. And when they're about to walk away, you know, one of them says, so are we safe? And then Reed Richards, again, the man with all the answers, smartest man on the planet, says, I don't know. And then there's that disconnect between the citizens of New York and the world versus the Fantastic Four. And I thought it was great. I loved that turning point of the vibe with the dynamic of the servants and the people they serve. I thought it was really cool. What you're saying there about Reed Richards almost kind of looking for some sort of approval from the audience of we made the right decision, right? that also goes through his head because I think a line that is in the movie that is really great and finally adds some depth to a Reed Richards on screen was when he's talking about Sue Storm and Reed Richards get into an argument, and it felt very real. It felt like, wow, this is like a real married couple argument. Obviously the stakes are astronomically high because they're talking about sacrificing their child or trying to save the earth, and it's very high stress, but the mood and the tone seemed very real and grounded, despite the fantastic circumstances that they were facing. When Sue Storm says, "You're not seriously considering giving up our child," and Reed has to say, I have to be honest with you. I've thought about it because I need to think about all possible options. And he says, I invite the worst possible things to come into my brain so that I can think of a solution that it doesn't happen. And it actually reminded me of the Thanos line from Avengers Infinity War when Thanos meets Tony Stark.
Stark, you know me? I do. You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
It reminded me that like Reed Richards this knowledge is almost like a curse for him because he has to welcome in all the dark side and the bad thoughts because he thinks of everything. And he has to overcome that. It's not all fun and games. Like, I made this wacky invention of, it's great to be me. It's great to be smart. It revealed a whole dark side to his psyche and how he's not just a happy-go-lucky guy, even though he puts on the face of the Mid-Atlantic. Every Sunday at 7, we have dinner, and I'm an upstanding citizen. You can see the turmoil go through his body language, go through his voice, and he finally breaks down to Sue in that moment and says, I have to think of these shitty things so that they don't happen. And so where he differences from Thanos is that he has that human side. He's not the mad titan of like, I need to kill half the population and then we'll all be good. That's the smart thing to do. Reed has this struggle within him because he's a father, he's a good husband, but that scientific brain does keep on ticking, and that is almost like a downfall for him. Where we saw that in the Tim Story ones, where Reed Richards is doing the Professor Brainerd from Flubber thing, where he's like, I'm too preoccupied to think about my wedding. I'm so smart and brainiac, like that I'm always coming up with inventions, and that's my downfall. And that's the biggest argument that Jessica Alba and Ioan Gruffudd's Sue Storm and Mr. Fantastic went through was, you're so caught up in science, you don't have time for our relationship. Whereas this one was, I have to think about all these terrible things and terrible outcomes, and I am cursed with knowledge. And I loved that. I thought it added a huge layer to Mr. Fantastic because I always thought he was the not least interesting, but I always thought, oh, what, you're too smart? This is where the good writing and the performance from Pedro Pascal came through. And I said, yes, you're a great Reed Richards.
Yeah, agree with that. So in general, if I had to give you a little
Nitpicks,
I wasn't 100% on board with the Reed Richards portrayal. I thought there was a lot of times where he was a little too wishy-washy in big moments. Like the Reed Richards is usually pretty, right, one of the Illuminati. He's usually on top of things, is able to contextualize in the moment. I thought there was a lot of times when he sort of shied away from the spotlight and got way too frazzled and frantic. This scene gave him a lot more context for me to see like, okay, this is your portrayal of Reed Richards. It's a lot more burden on him. And maybe this is part of that first steps where he's learning how to intake all of this and then create action out of it. He is more frantic at this point in his story arc. Maybe this is the first time Reed Richards has really faced a huge threat and had to think through it. Because up to this point, I thought, Reed seems a little, from just a very canon perspective, he seems very overwhelmed, which is, there's not quite the Tim Story Reed Richards, which is like, I'm doing twists at a bachelor party and I'm dancing on the floor, right? Like that's too much for me.
Dude.
And then the Pedro Pascal was a little too timid. I was like, there's a happy medium in there I'd like to see. But I thought that scene that you're talking about, his conversation with Sue about, I have to think of all this and how he acted, pre-pregnancy of doing all the tests for the baby and, fatherhood being this human experience that is outside of his scientific realm. I was like, okay, this is good context for that, because I wasn't the biggest fan of the Reed Richards portrayal. I was fine with it, but I was like, I'd like to see it a little more in the direction I'm talking about. But it gave a lot of context to, okay, this is his sort of first experience with this big human emotion relationship building, which is something that somebody that smart might not be as good at. So I thought this was a great scene.
Yeah, and bringing up the Tim Story bachelor party scene, I was editing our most previous episode of In Time. Check it out. It's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I was editing that, and I had the 2000s Fantastic Fours on in the background. And I remember kind of being a little bit easy on the first Fantastic Four. There was a lot of good parts about that movie, but the bad parts they stick out. And that Silver Surfer bachelor party scene is like,
guy really knows how to loosen up.
That is an example of wasted screen time, where it's like we're just doing something to be funny and campy, and this is adding nothing to the story.
No value.
Again, I love Yolan Griffith as Reed Richards, and I thought he really portrayed his nerdy, scientific, nerd out side great, but he was lacking, and it's not his fault, it's the writing. They were lacking that depth, and where I love the first Tim Story Fantastic Four, Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm and as the Thing, his story arc really carried that movie, where it was all about him accepting his new role and his fiance leaving him because of his new hideous physical appearance.
He's a rock.
And he was all about overcoming that. And he was really the heartbeat of Fantastic Four 2005. In this movie, when Reed Richards comes out and we get a little bit more depth to him of like, oh, I'm not like, my flaws isn't that I'm too smart and I get distracted. It's like, no, my flaws is that I am timid, and this is all new information to me, and I need to make the best, smartest decision for everybody, because I serve the earth, but I also serve my family. So I thought it was fantastic, if I may.
Yeah, and Reed Richards, obviously, he's not going to give up his baby. He says that. He goes, I am still a human. I might be the smartest man, but I'm not always going to make the most logical choice in the world. And so we're going to save our baby. Earlier in the movie, he had teleported an egg across the room, and he says, wait a minute. I think I could teleport the Earth from where we are now to somewhere, an inhabitable space, light years away, that is going to buy us hundreds of years away from Galactus. And so that's our new plot point. I love that we had and honestly, I thought, okay, we're doing teleportation. Is this where we're going to get out of Earth 828? Like, is this where we're going to start multiversing? I don't know. And so, again, these are things in a movie where you say, okay, this could go a bunch of different directions, and I'm invested, instead of just I'm beating bad guy, and now I'm like, all right, how are we going to beat the bad guy? Right? We're adding variables. There's variables going on in the movie right now, and I love it.
Two things. So Reed gets this idea because of Sue Storm, who has to confront the angry mob outside the Baxter building because they started not believing in the Fantastic Four. And Sue Storm comes out, makes a hell of a speech, and says, I'm not going to sacrifice my baby for the Earth, but I sure as hell am not going to sacrifice the Earth for my baby. So then we get the whole world back on our side. Upon Sue's speech, she says, my parents, even though my dad wasn't the greatest and my mom passed away when I was like very early in my life, I know they would move the heavens and earth for me. And then that sparks something in Reed Richards' mind. And he says, move the heavens, move the earth. I'm going to move the earth. So Sue kind of sparks that in Reed's brain, who didn't necessarily think of that on his own. It took Sue to have him come up with that idea. But yes, we had that teleportation egg experiment in the beginning. And we think, oh, okay, our big crazy plan is going to be teleporting Earth to this different solar system. Another thing, a second point, my wife brought it up was, is there a sun where we're going? Are we going to fuck up the calendars? Or is there no more 12 months wherever we go when we move this entire planet?
Well, he said it because, right, they've been tracking other planets, solar systems. So he said it's within 2% of the habitable zone.
There's a vacant orbit route around the star.
Pretty much, yeah. So in science, my limited, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an astronomer, I don't know nothing, but I listen to a few things. So there is like the idea of the habitable zone for humanity or organic life. And so that's what a lot of, scientists look for as far as, hey, could life be living on that planet? Is it habitable? And so in this world where Reed Richards is looking at a bunch of other different planets, a lot of those planets that have been destroyed by the Silver Surfer probably had life on them. So they're clearly tracking other solar systems, other planets. And he goes, hey, I found a place, found it pretty quick. I'll give you that. Oh yeah, I know. There's this place. I've had my eye on it. There's a piece of real estate out there in the universe that I said, hey, the Earth should be over there.
Hey, to defend that, they did do a lot of deep space research, and they had these audio things coming in, and Johnny would have these meetings with Reed, and they would say, oh, what's our 4:00 meeting going to be about? And I feel like Johnny always wanted to go back out into space, and he says, oh, go over these audio distress signals or just audio files that come in and take a listen to them. And I do think that there was amongst the cut content, I feel like there might have been something to do with Johnny of going out into deep space, because there was set photos of Joseph Quinn on a beach that was very similar to Shala Ball's flashback of her origin story. So there's theories out there that he might have went to Zen Law and contacted the people on that planet. In the comics, Human Torch does go out into deep space and get the ultimate nullifier, which is the thing to defeat Galactus, which I thought would have been horrible if we found that. Just go out in deep space, find this device, and that's how we win. I'm glad they didn't go that route, but I do think part of that cut content was maybe cutting out some Johnny either going into deep space or getting insight onto Shala Ball's background. I won't give it too much gripe because they were already doing deep space. Also in a trailer, Reed Richards says, I reached the far depths of space and they heard, but that never shows up in the movie. There's a lot of trailer stuff that was put out either because it was cut or it was only for the trailer. And it's interesting.
I feel like we talked about it at the beginning. There was a lot of cut content because I feel like they did a few things where I'm I felt like they did Ben Grimm a little dirty in this movie. I feel like he had more character arc. There was a few things I did not like about the Thing's character. James, I'm going to let you go, and then I'll tack on to that. But
I feel like this
big
is
fan of the Thing.
I feel like this is a double time nitpick.
Nitpicks.
I feel like my biggest gripe with this movie is that we didn't get enough of the Thing. We didn't get enough of Ben Grimm. That's what I really loved about Tim Story's Fantastic Four. It was very Thing centric, and he carried the weight of that movie. But I felt like we needed more of Ben Grimm. And Nick, we were talking about it off recording. We think that there was cut content between him and Natasha Lyonne's character of Rachel Rosman, who is a little bit of a shout out of Jack Kirby's wife, who went by Roz, because usually it's Alicia Masters who is the love interest of Ben Grimm in the Thing, but Alicia Masters is nowhere to be found in this movie. Something was definitely missing there, because Ben Grimm is walking down Yancey Street. It's inspired by Delancey Street, which is a Jewish neighborhood. It's where Jack Kirby grew up. And Ben Grimm has a lot of ties to Jack Kirby, the illustrator and the comic book artist. But there's this scene where he's walking down the fictional Yancey Street, and then he runs into Rachel Rosman, who is played by Natasha Lyonne. They kind of have this flirty, hey, how you doing moment. And then there's no middle part. And then when we get to the third act, he kind of thinks, in case things don't work out, I got to go see my girl at the synagogue. And he's looking fucking fresh, by the way, in that suit and top hat.
Fitted.
I think he has the rock beard at that point, but
didn't love the rock beard.
I actually like the rock beard.
Throw it out there. So does he organically grow? Does he have hair?
So in the comics, he can grow a rock beard, but I think it was from
after 1,000 years.
1,000 years. But I thought it was a funny little. And hey, in 828 and the MCU in this universe, he can grow facial hair very quickly.
Not a game breaker for me. Just thought it was I was like, I don't. Oh, he grows a beard. It's the same way pregnancy doesn't make a girl interesting. Growing a beard doesn't make a guy interesting. I need more backstory than just oh, look at him. He grows a little rock beard.
we're definitely missing that backstory with Ben Grimm in this movie. And I thought, man, I could have used a lot more thing action. But I will say, again, I'm happy that if it wasn't Ben Grimm, I'm happy that it was Sue Storm, because she really gets to shine in this movie. But yes, a nitpick I have is
Nitpicks.
what was up with that Rachel Rosman storyline? We had a beginning, we had an end. There was no middle. And maybe it was pacing. Maybe it was visual effects. The Thing is a lot to do to put on screen. But I think that was...
It's a little creepy.
If I had... what, The Thing?
He meets this girl on the street. She says, "Oh, stop by the school sometimes." And he shows up at her synagogue. He knows where she's at. It was a little weird.
Yeah, so I feel like there's missing content. There's missing content there. And I feel like we could have used more of that. Just on topic of what kind of gripes we have with the movie, my wife brought this up. She said, do you think there was a little bit too much montages? And I was like, I didn't really think about it, and I don't really remember that much montages, but I'm sure there was. Again, I'm sorry, I only saw this once in theaters, but we had the intro montage, and then we have the we're going to space montage. I'm sure there was a baby prep montage in there, but it might have been too montagey for people, which like Emily said, she's like, I love a good montage, but even I was saying there was too much montages. So that might just be like a story structure gripe, a pacing gripe. I didn't necessarily take note of that. Maybe it's going to be obvious when I watch it for the second time, but what about you? Did you think there's too montagey?
I'm trying to think back. I don't think it was overly montagey. Now that I think about it, there were more than in a normal movie, but you're also trying to
You're covering a lot of ground. We're covering
these massive time spans.
We're finding out we're pregnant. We're having the baby. We're having a threat. And then we need to deal with the threat. So now we have a whole month of
because we're told the Silver Surfer is going to be gone for a month. So we have a month. We know that, Galactus is at Mars, right? We're getting these small cutaways of where his ship's at. Oh, he's passing Jupiter.
I didn't notice it and it didn't bother me, but I can see that. I'm not debunking people's gripes if they thought it was too montagey. But yeah, for me, biggest gripe is I need more Thing, but at the end of the day, we got good Sue.
Honestly, I needed a little bit of more of all of the characters. Like using the one thing that Tim Story did was those moments where all of our first family is using their powers together.
Because I think the John Malkovich sequence was going to showcase that, but then they bypassed it just to keep the story going. But we would have saw the teamwork and the combos and the tag teams and the foursome moves. So yeah, I did think we didn't really see the Fantastic Four sweat it out too much up until the final act when they were really trying to take on their big bad.
I got gripes there too, but yeah, at one point Ben Grimm says, I want to punch something. And Reed Richards says, if we can, we'll punch him. And then I never get the Thing punching anything.
If there's a gripe to have with the movie, it's we just needed more action. We need a little bit more action. Sometimes the issue is we have too much action and not enough depth and character development. And then this is the opposite effect.
We were overly character developed. And again, this is just a nitpick. It's not a problem with the movie.
Yeah.
Not a problem with the movie. It didn't ruin my experience. But if I had to say, hey, I wish I had more of something, it would be Ben Grimm. It would be the Thing. It would be a little more teamwork with the actual superpowers.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got Galactus coming.
Galactus.
Well, James, we're going to need to unite the world. Like we said, we're going to teleport the world. We got to build all these bridge devices that are going to go ahead and the whole world has to be covered in these teleportation devices. We're going to unite the world. We're going to mobilize the entire Earth. Like you said, we're kind of at this world peace stage where all these leaders can talk to each other. We don't have all these massive conflicts, and we could say, hey, Paris, Berlin, Moscow, Tokyo, Beijing, right? Everybody is going to go ahead and build these devices. And but we're assuming, I saw your notes, not Latveria.
Not
brought up at all.
They're like, fuck this. I don't want to go down.
Yeah. So we're building this, and we're all systems go. We have our countdown. We're like 10 seconds before transporting the Earth, and we're like, no, their heroes are going to win. But of course they can't win, James, because Shala Bal is going to break free from her month-long. And I'm surprised we weren't tracking her movement through the solar system, but we were,
I think she's too fast. I think she's too fast to like in real time track. They can track where she's been, but I don't think they can real time track her, which I'd like. They could track Galactus because he's in a slow ass fucking ship, but not Silver Surfer.
Wasn't worried about it, but it's your classic superhero. We were going to win. No, we're not, because here comes our Silver Surfer. She is going to go ahead and just surfboard all the way through every single bridge on the Earth. She's going to destroy Paris.
She's
and then
shredding.
In a split second.
She's
shredding.
She's literally shredding. She is destroying these bridges, and she's shredding on her surfboard.
She can destroy every bridge other than New York.
Yeah, she doesn't destroy the New York bridge because Johnny busts out the plan B that he was cooking up off to the side. He was out here. He's up to something. All right, Johnny. Nick, I have to say, I love this decision to make Johnny smart. I love this decision to make Johnny smart because just like Reed Richards, having that dark doom side to him, I thought, yes, another layer to a primarily, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but in the past iterations that we've seen of the Fantastic Four, Johnny's always been known as the ladies' man and as the guy giving Ben Grimm a hard time. I love that they make him smart in First Steps. When they go to the world ship on the first time meeting Galactus, and we already went through this point where Johnny says, I had a moment with a Silver Surfer, and she was hot, and she was silver, and she was sexy, and we had a moment. And everyone's like, Johnny being Johnny. So then he says, oh, I'm going to go charm the surfer. And then we're all thinking as an audience, classic Johnny trying to throw down his Riz. All right. Classic. He's chasing the tail. He's trying to just be a little ladies' man, fuck boy. But I love that it's actually recon. He's getting intel on her language because she says something to him in her native language. And then he says, oh, what you said to me earlier, what was that? And he is basically trying to get information on her, and he gets a translated sentence in her home language. And he uses this information to decrypt an entire language based off one sentence. Yes, it is a little bit ridiculous, not believable, but I'm here for it because it's for a good cause of the movie and for good storytelling and for good character development of like, hey, Johnny's not just chasing down the silver sexy lady. He's using this as a sneaky way to get ciphering of the language, which I thought was great. I thought it was a good payoff in this third act.
It's a payoff of all the distress signals they've been getting, right? Like that's been sort of this little C plot that's been happening. They have, and first off, I love that all of their recordings are on like vinyl records.
And Herbie.
So there's a stack of vinyl records. And Herb.
And Herbie.
Good old Herb.
Herbie being a practical little robot that wasn't CGI. He was made of cardboard and wood and robotics. His eyes and his mouth are a cassette tape. And we see that later in the movie where Reed takes out a tape from that makes up his face and it says, here's the home tape. Here's the space tape. And I didn't know if that was recording information or if it was like what information he needs to know, because it's like, hey, Herbie, when you're at home, you help Ben Grimm make the dinner. Or if you're in space, this is the information to pilot the ship. I loved that detail. And I loved that. Yes. Like it's very like
so fun.
It's very analog, but it's still futuristic and sci-fi enough for us to be like, there's this autonomous robot who is intelligent and can respond to you, but he's also super dated with his hardware. I absolutely loved it. Yes. So the deep space audio files being on records was great. And then Johnny using that in the background, because that was like a little thing in the background. And we're like, okay, that's something that is just happening. But no, it has a payoff in the end here. And I love that Johnny is smart. I love that he uses that to decipher the Zenlaw language. He uses that to save this final bridge in New York City because he makes contact with Shala Bal on a spiritual level where he kind of breaks her power cosmic trance and has her humanity, or I guess Zen vanity side come out. It shines through because they connect on a spiritual level where she's not influenced by Galactus's power cosmic and like, I must go to planets and herald them and warn them of their impending doom. He is able to speak to her in her native language. And it's almost like a reversal of the comics because Ben Grimm's love interest, Alicia Masters, in the comics is the one who brings empathy out of Norrin Radd's Silver Surfer. And we kind of saw that in Tim Story's Rise of Silver Surfer. It was Sue Storm kind of playing that role where she kind of drew the empathy out of Norrin Radd, where he kind of broke out of it and said, oh yeah, I also was from a doomed planet and I sacrificed myself. And I am thinking about all the lives that were lost. So I think that's a cute little reversal. And I thought it was great because there's that all is lost moment, but Johnny,
bring it on, Johnny,
is out here cooking. He's not just like the eye candy for the ladies, the funny guy for the guys. He has a good purpose in this movie.
Yeah, he has the depth, and the whole time he's trying to tell Reed. Reed's dismissing him a little bit, and so he goes, all right, I'm going to just do my thing in the background until it matters. Then it does matter. We talked to the Silver Surfer. It's the same backstory most Silver Surfers have to save her planet. Shalabal sacrificed herself to become Galactus's herald.
Offered up herself and said, spare my world.
Yeah, and it gives us some insight into Galactus as far as he doesn't really have a heart or a soul, or even, like, there's not even a lot of intention behind what he's doing. He's just doing what he's doing. You're my new herald. Okay, let's go. That's sort of a point. We already knew it, but we really can't reason with Galactus. But Galactus, regardless, is going to be on his way for this baby.
Want that baby?
For little Franklin. In the meantime, Silver Surfer was upset by Johnny's revelations, has taken off into the ether. We don't know where Silver Surfer is, but here comes Galactus. And instead of just eating the world, he wants the baby. So he's getting out of his ship, and he comes, puts feet on the ground. He's on Earth. He's doing sort of a Godzilla thing.
He's also doing his first steps on planet Earth, which I thought, is this Galactus's first steps on this planet Earth?
Oh,
is that what we're doing?
Yeah. He doesn't get out of his ship much.
When they had the shot of him walking through the streets of New York, which was a miniature set, and they had it might have been Ralph Ineson, or it could have been a stand-in. When the big feet are walking by, that's all a miniature. And they just VFX in some dust and debris, but all the shaking, like street lamps and the cars, those are just tiny, tiny little scale models to a human walking by, which I love because Matt Shakman said, I want to make this movie feel like it was shot in the 60s where they would do kind of scaling and model work like that, which is just another little meta Hollywood quality to this movie, and effective, I'll say.
Practical's always better. We say it all the time. So our plan is, okay, we can't transport the Earth because our bridges are destroyed, but we can get Galactus into our platform and we could transport him.
Tell me this, when they figured out all the bridges got fucked up, and originally Sue was not on board with offering up the baby, and then Reed's backup plan is we can use the baby as bait. Again, only seeing it one time. Did Sue catch on to that and say, you're not suggesting using the baby as bait, but then she's on board with it because they think that's their best shot? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So what I saw was Reed coming to the realization where Reed had now proven to Sue that I would do everything I could to protect this baby. And now this is our last option. It was almost Doctor Strange looking at Tony and saying, this is our only option. Like, you have to trust me now. This is it. You have to trust my plan. And Sue looking and going, if you're saying this is our last shot, then I'm here with it.
Yep.
Yeah. And her finally saying, I trust you and your brain, and I know you would not do this because the science says so, but because you know this is the last option here.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do a baby trick, but we're gonna have a little switcheroo going. We're gonna use Sue's shield to act as a magnifying glass for Johnny's fire shot.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's the combos we were missing in earlier in the movie. Where we're seeing how they.
I was hoping
together.
we're gonna get a big combo deal, but we're gonna do a little body switch with the baby. We're gonna send the baby over to Herbie. We're gonna put a fake baby. But it doesn't fool Galactus because he's Galactus.
Yeah, he has like this vision to see power cosmic, I guess. It's like a thermal vision. And then he sees like, oh, the baby's over in the Baxter building. And this is where he hits him with the clever little bugs line.
He's one step from stepping into the teleportation device.
One big step for Galactus kind.
And then he stops and he pulls back and then he goes towards the Fantastic Four building and he's going to get the baby and then we're going to get our big climax. James, I want to know what you feel about this climax. Like the last final fight here.
First off, they get all the citizens off the street into Subterranea via blessings from the Mole Man, and that is all thanks to Sue Storm basically reaching a peace agreement with the Mole Man and Subterranea, because I think there was a deleted scene where they had to sit down and she knew she was pregnant and she wanted to have a drink of whiskey with them, kind of just shoot the shit. But I love that they made Sue Storm such a diplomat and a peacemaker and a basically a thinker, not on the Reed Richards level, but on the human level, where it's like, hey man, let's like kick back, talk about our differences, and let me relate to you. Let me see your side. So they make an agreement to get all the citizens off the street so that Galactus walking through the street doesn't
murder thousands,
cause all these casualties. Earth 616 would never, because apparently those only 76 people in the Battle of New York died in the first Avengers movie. Bullshit. But no, there was like no preemptive plan to get those people off the street. I love in this Utopia version of New York, it's like, we know a big threat's coming, so let's get everyone in the safest place, underground. And I love that little detail. I loved, and my wife mentioned this, she said, I've never seen a stereotypical villain known as like, Mole Man be like an accomplice to the good guys and be like an asset. I thought that was a fun little twist for this one-dimensional comic book bad guy. That was fun. So yeah, no casualties are happening on the street. And this is where we finally get to see the Fantastic Four sweat it out. When they met Galactus on the first meeting, there was like these big tubes that went into his back, which is where I think he was getting fed from the ship, because the ship is the thing that actually destroyed a planet and then
chews up the planet.
Yeah, it was like feeding tubes into his back. And then so upon that first meeting, Reed and Johnny take note of that, because Johnny attacks those kind of access points on his back, and then it kind of causes him to be disabled for a second. Reed is going to go ahead and do the same. He's going to stretch up and stab a thing into his feeding holes. Johnny and Ben, they're going to just kind of do what they do. Fire blast. It's clobbering time, smash. But Ben gets straight yeeted into space. By first he throws like an oil tank truck, I think, at him. And then he like throws a crane, and Galactus grabs this crane.
The crane. Is this not a throwback to where Ben uses the crane to win the fight?
Yeah.
I was like, it's Ben Grimm with a crane.
This is the reverse. This is the reverse yeet. But now the crane has turned on Ben Grimm, and Galactus takes that crane and yeets him off into space.
Yeah. One thing I hated about this is Johnny Storm looks and goes, Ben? And it's like, dude, he is 1,000 feet away from you right now, hurtling into space. Why are you calling his name?
He's like 100 miles away.
Ben? And you're like, what?
So
he's out of the atmosphere, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny has to go chase him down because he's approaching the stratosphere. And this is when Reed Richards comes up, and he's going to try and solo Galactus with the climbing up his back, kind of almost like an Ant-Man on a big villain move, stab a pole into his little feeding holes there. And then Mr. Fantastic almost gets fucking like a psycho kid trying to pull apart like a small bug.
Yeah, Stretch Armstrong just getting...
and I was like, oh God, he's going to die. And then Johnny grabs Ben Grimm, and they're coming back, hurtling down to Earth. And this has been a running joke the entire time, where Ben Grimm doesn't want to say his cartoon character's catchphrase of "it's clobbering time." And it's because it's a very cheesy line. And I think the Tim Story Fantastic Four, when Ben Grimm says it in that movie, it was kind of like a yeah in the moment. But then when you look back at it, you're like, God, that's so fucking corny.
Well, he was the same way. He's like, I don't say that. And they're like, say it.
Say the thing.
Say the thing.
That's not really something I say.
It's clobbering time.
That's just in the cartoon.
And then so Johnny's like, he's been egging him on this entire movie about his catchphrase. I love in the first act. It's very quiet, but Johnny just looks at Ben and says, "Ben, what time is it?" And he's like, "It's dinner time."
Hey, what time is it?
It's dinner time.
Just like you got to say the thing.
What time is it, Ben?
No.
What time is it, Ben?
No, Johnny.
Say it!
I don't wanna!
Say it!
So he finally makes him say the thing, and it comes off like corny and cheesy, but it's because it is corny and cheesy.
Has to be. There's no serious way to do it.
No, not at all. And I think the problem is it's definitely been memed. I think it's been the template for It's Morbin time, because when Morbius came out, people were memeing that movie hard, and they said, "I love when Morbius says it's Morbin time." And I think that's definitely a play on It's Clobbering time, because it's such a cheesy line.
It's the cheesiest. Like that, I'm sure it played well in the 60s when you're reading a comic and the big rock man says, "It's clobbering time." And
then
it's
all
fun.
readers are like, "Oh, let's go." But
because nobody even says the word clobber anymore.
Nobody's clobbering in 2025. But he cannonballs into Galactus, frees Reed Richards of his clutches, but Sue fucking Storm is absolutely going crazy, because she is 1v1ing Galactus with her own force fields. And she's trying to shove this giant cosmic being into this teleportation bridge, and she's doing it all by herself.
Yeah, and this is where I have an issue with the final fight.
Okay, hit me.
It felt very anime. This is not an issue with just this movie. A lot of movies do this. It's a problem I have with a lot of these movies. It's very anime. If you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z or something like that, it's Goku with his Kamehameha. And this time, if he just wants it more and pushes harder, then it works. So Sue Storm has the power of motherhood behind her and goes, yeah! And I don't love it.
I agree with you on one part, but I'll Sue Storm force field push back on another part. Yes, this is why I was not a big fan of Zack Snyder's version of Superman. Because I thought Superman has never been interesting to me, because he's way too OP. And if he just wishes hard enough and light beams a guy as hard as he can, I'm like, this is not interesting. If I just go, it's like, okay, like I don't get, it's okay. I'll push back a little bit on this one, because yes, you mentioned the power of motherhood. There is no stronger force than the strength of a mother, because her child is in danger. And I think she unlocked this new ability, which, to also the defense of this movie, is not anime status, because it does end up killing her. She does die.
Totally.
She does die. She makes a sacrifice play and says, "I'm using all of my force to make sure this fucking guy goes into this portal." So yes, I 100% agree with you that wanting it enough, and you're like, "Oh, okay," like basically you can do that every time. But she is driven by the power of motherhood, and this does technically kill her.
I understand.
Go for it.
My wish for a movie like this was, I thought, okay, I'm good with her starting to push back Galactus and turn the tides of the fight. And then I was waiting for our other three heroes to jump in. And I thought, okay, this is when the first family
that would have been better,
works together, right? And defeats him. She's using her power, and she could still be the main driving force behind all this. But Ben Grimm is just,
he does knock
just
out a
destroying
building.
some pillars.
Well, no, he takes out the pillars of a building where Galactus was bracing himself on. So he does take that out. So it is a little bit of teamwork, but yes, no, I agree with you. The Tim Story one at least had the water slide, Reed Richards, and the Ben Grimm kicking over the fire hydrant. The little, they technically were all involved in it, but it was like a way lower stakes takedown.
Yeah.
But no, I see what you're saying.
It's not it didn't ruin the movie for me at all. Don't get me wrong. This is me getting really in the weeds here. It's a thing. A lot of movies do it, especially a lot of superhero movies do it. And it's just not my favorite way for a bad guy to be defeated was, hey, there's this power I've had this whole time, and now I'm just using it more.
Yes.
And I get it. Like, it still worked well. I get it. Sue Storm, her baby was in peril. At this point, Galactus has Franklin in his hands. And so this is like, if there was ever a time to deplete all of your energy, this was it. And she does it. I just would have loved a little more teamwork involved in it. And it really is just her pushing back and then being like, all right, we got the baby. Keep going, Sue. You keep wanting it, Sue. Does this rank in the top 5 of final climactic fights for me? No, and because the rest of the movie's been so good, right? And so this part, I'm like, little letdown. Little letdown on that part. Not much. If I had to be pessimistic, that's it.
Oddly enough, a lot of similarities between this movie and Rise of the Silver Surfer, the 2007 movie, because in both of those movies, Sue Storm, in some way, shape, or form, does make a sacrifice play and dies in the final battle. And then in both movies, both Sues are brought back to life through the power cosmic. Norrin Rad resuscitates Jessica Alba's Sue Storm through the sacrifice play to save his life, because Doctor Doom threw like a chrome spear at them or whatever, and she took the spear. So then Silver Surfer is the one that ends up resuscitating her. But baby Franklin Richards, after it's all said and done, is the one who resuscitates his own mother. And also, like Silver Surfer, Rise to Silver Surfer, Norrin Rad ends up defeating Galactus by like driving the surfboard inside of his cloud and then like blowing him up with the power cosmic, which didn't make a lot of sense because Galactus gave Silver Surfer the power cosmic. So how can you weaponize that against Galactus?
How do you blow up a cloud?
But also, like in this movie, Johnny Storm is ready to make the sacrifice play and shove Galactus into the portal, because basically he starts climbing back out when there's still time on the clock. But then Shala Ball swerves in, and she recognizes that this has been wrong the entire time, because Johnny Storm had pointed out that they've been killing planets, and then kind of reinvigorated her empathy inside of her. And then so she's the one who ends up putting the final blow on Galactus, which I thought was another little interesting parallel to Rise of Silver Surfer.
It was a payoff, right? Because up to that point, Johnny's B story of understanding the Silver Surfer, his extra little play of being smart and talking to her, he made her go away and stop destroying the teleportations. But I thought that's not quite the payoff that I wanted for his whole arc.
Yeah. Yeah, if that was the last we saw of Silver Surfer too, that'd be kind of disappointing. So
I like that
she comes back and kind of pushes back on Galactus, because he's kind of been manipulative towards her and obviously using her as a servant of his destruction. And even when they first meet him and he says, "Oh, I want the baby," Shala Ball is kind of like, "Oh, what? Like, I didn't know that was part of the deal."
He's just a child.
Yeah. So I think there was a little bit of mistrust instilled in Shala Ball at that moment. And finally she says, "I've had enough. I'm not your herald anymore. Go f*** yourself. See you on the other side of the universe, bitch."
Yeah. And she could run away from Galactus, right? She's fast enough.
Hella
I don't know if
fast.
she can get the chrome off of her or whatnot if she doesn't have her surfboard, but
which is not attached.
What you gonna do? But like you said, Franklin brings Sue Storm back to life. Their baby has the power cosmic. It's not really explored too much, but this idea that Reed Richards throughout the movie was testing the baby to see if he had powers. He couldn't find it, but there's this unexplained power that Reed doesn't have access to or vision into.
Almost like Jack from The Incredibles as well.
A little bit of Jack?
Yeah.
Well, The Incredibles didn't take Fantastic Four, so stop that right now. You don't say that, because that's not, hey, you stop that. Hey, don't do that. So, hey, don't do that. So yeah, so that it's another part of humanity of Reed Richards, where after Galactus told him his son is a monster who has the power cosmic who could take his place, there's this other B story of, is my son a monster? Is this who he's destined to be? And then his newborn son saves Sue Storm, and so there's this little bit of, hey, you could be special and you could go this way or you could go that way. You could be bad or you could be altruistic. And so you can kind of see that arc of Franklin starting to develop. I don't know where it's going to go in the MCU, but it will go somewhere.
Big character.
But that's not the last we see of little Franklin, James, because we get some credits after our happy ending. But about minute 45 into our credits, we get a little mid-credit scene. And what do we see there, buddy?
We get a Doctor Doom cameo, not Robert Downey Jr., probably a stand-in because they want to pay $1 million for Robert Downey Jr. to be in the scene. But Nick, something interesting, because I'm going to transition into the credits and the funniest names in the credits. But on topic of this mid-credit scene featuring a Doctor Doom looking at Franklin, when they get to the music part, like the song parts of the credits, that's usually at the end. There was a score credit, and the song was called Doom, which was like Doom with a question mark at the end. And the music was done by not Michael Giacchino, but Alan Silvestri, who is a friend of the show,
Silvestri joint,
who has done all the Avengers movies except for Age of Ultron, which I believe was Giacchino. And Matt Shakman has been getting this question because all the sleuths and the nerds are trying to get answers, and they are going to try and catch somebody slipping before this movie comes out. And they would say, is Dr. Doom in this movie? And Matt Shakman says, Dr. Doom is not in my Fantastic Four movie. And they always choose their words very carefully. So he says, he's not in my movie. But Nick, these post-credit scenes can be directed by different people. So in the Thunderbolts, that was directed by somebody. Sorry, I don't know your name. But the post-credit scene was directed by the Russo brothers, who, yes, are returning to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So with Michael Giacchino not doing the score for this and it's credited to Alan Silvestri, I'm thinking that the Russo brothers directed this post-credit scene because it does feature Dr. Doom, and Matt Shakman, in a very cheeky manner, says Dr. Doom is not my movie. But the post-credit scene is not necessarily part of the movie.
Interesting.
Very. And Nick, with the credits, we have the funniest names in the credits. This was very tough because I had to do it live. I couldn't pause it.
Yeah.
I was in the theater like looking at names. And also I would write down partial parts of names and try and look it up on IMDb afterwards. However, I couldn't find them. So I'm thinking it wasn't fully updated yet. But I do have names that I was able to capture and confirm. So Nick, the funniest names in the credits are Jessica Chick, Gemma Peck, Tang Bingbing, and Dip Nimkar. Nick, I had another name on here that sounded familiar to me, and it's super unconfirmed if it's the same, but it's going to actually relate to our most previous episode of In Time. There was a Don Clonch in the credits, and I shouted out a Don Clonch in 2011's Justin Timberlake starring In Time. And I thought, how many Don Clonches can there be in Hollywood? Is this the same Don Clonch?
It has to be.
It has to
Buddy,
be.
it absolutely has to be.
I was sitting in the theater and I was like, Don Clonch. I was like, why does that sound familiar? Didn't I just say Don Clonch? And I totally did. Don Clonch is out here. But Tang Bing Bing, what a name.
So, I'm sorry. I'm Googling Don Clonch. I have to.
So I could not find Don Clonch in the credits for Fantastic Four on IMDb, but she is on there for In Time. And on my life, Don Clonch was in the credits.
I believe you.
This bitch.
And that's Fantastic Four. First steps.
First steps. We get a post credit scene of a cartoon version of the show, which does have a lot of Easter eggs to the bad guys and little shout outs. But yes, what a movie. It is time to go over our awards, our mini pops. Nick, this is the award section. We're going to go over our goods, our bads, and guess what, Nick? We're going to start out with a category that we always do, which is going to be the best weapon in this movie. Nick, on the count of 3, I would love to see what your nomination is for the best weapon from the Fantastic Four First Steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Show the crowd. Nick, you said planet-eating ship.
Sure did, James. And you said teleportation bridge as your best weapon.
I had some issues thinking about weapons. I didn't even think about the planet-eating ship. That seems like an OP one-shot weapon, silver bullet to whoever draws that. But I guess I saw it more as a tool of destruction, but I guess it technically would categorize itself as a weapon.
Yeah, I went with the body count. That ship has killed billions probably
That's
at this point in the game.
Kind of crazy.
It's hard when you have a movie with superheroes with natural powers, right? It's not like the Iron Man suit, it's natural powers. So we didn't get to see a ton of weapons per se. Planet-eating ship was the best I could come up with.
And honestly, it's kind of crazy. Spoilers for the Rat Party. When we go over the best weapon tier list, there's legit going to be 2 planet killers in there. So, I mean, this is pretty much the Death Star of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, unless you wanted to go with Silver Surfboard, but
no, because
it did kill all those bridges.
Well, here's the thing. The surfboard in Tim Story's Rise of the Silver Surfer was non-canonically powered up as a weapon where anybody can ride it because Dr. Doom was surfing on it. He was surfing on that surfboard. But in the comics, it only belongs to Silver Surfer. No one can use it, but it was a weapon for the Tim Story version. This one, the script doesn't build up the Silver Surfboard as a weapon or as a item that anyone can wield and they possess the power cosmic. It really lies within Galactus and Shala Bal. So shit, man, I think I have to agree with you. Ta-2, aka the world ship, is the best weapon.
All right, James, we cannot have our best weapon without also our best fighter, as is tradition. So on the count of 3, actually, no, count of 4. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. James, you have written down Sue Storm.
Absolutely. Nick, you wrote down Silver Surfer as the best fighter.
Shala Bal.
Tell me about Silver Surfer.
I mean, as far as a pure power play, we saw her take down the bridges. When she's focused, she is tough to beat. We saw her on Ta-2 on the planet ship. Very hard to take down. Sue Storm does incapacitate her for a second, but doesn't stop her. She chases that ship. They have to use a neutron star, a black hole, to take her down. And even then, a month later, she is wreaking havoc upon the Earth. And then in the end, she is the final death blow to Galactus. So the power is there, the prowess is there, and she's a problem. Talk to me about Sue. Obviously, she's with the power of motherhood.
Silver Surfer, I believe, was our best fighter from Rise of the Silver Surfer because
different surfer.
Norrinrad was able to take down Galactus by powering up his body through the surfboard, and then it blows up the cloud. Don't ask questions. Nick, I went with Sue Storm in this movie because she is the only one to successfully disarm and actually catch Shala Bal off her game, get her off footing with a force choke via Darth Vader powers while pregnant. I thought that was crazy. And then, yes, Nick, she is the only one to successfully 1v1 and actually overpower the most powerful being in this movie, which was Galactus. She uses her entire life force to just shove that big ass man into the portal through her Kamehameha motherhood powers. She was the one who did the most damage on him. It's like when you're playing video games and you get 350 damage on a guy and some teammate comes in and puts 10 damage on him and technically gets the final kill. That's what Shala Bal did at the end. But Sue Storm went absolutely nuts in this movie.
She did. Definitely lower kill count, but that's okay. Question for you, though, when she disarms Silver Surfer while pregnant, now that we know that Franklin has the power cosmic, is that a little bit of cheating? You have one of the most powerful beings in your stomach. You kind of have that extra power in you.
It adds,
is that a little bit of...
Yeah,
is that a little extra for her? Not bad, right?
It could be, but Franklin was for show out the womb in the third act, and she was absolutely.
I'm not taking it away from her. I'm just saying, is that the secret sauce to have?
I was shocked. As soon as she started shoving Galactus into the portal, I thought she's my best fighter.
But I'm down with Sue Storm.
Sue Storm!
Power of motherhood.
Best fighter in the books. Now it's time to hit our MVC, most valuable character. I want to see your answer on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nick, for the MVC, you said Johnny Storm. Johnny.
I did, and James, I see you're saying Sue Storm again.
Big facts. Yeah, Johnny. I love Johnny in this movie. I nominated Sue Storm because she fought off the Silver Surfer while pregnant again, the only one to successfully disable her in that moment. She is the one who comes out to the citizens of New York and says, hey, everybody calm your tits. We're not going to let you guys fucking die. We're out here. And she re-motivates the entire world to get behind the Fantastic Four, for everybody to rally behind them, sparks the idea in Reed Richards' mind to do the teleportation plan. She's the one who befriended Harvey Elder, aka the Mole Man, and saw him as a person. And even someone says, we're getting help from the Mole Man. And then Paul Walter Hauser playing the Mole Man, it kind of steals the show in that scene. And he says, hey, wait a minute. Like, who are you calling Mole Man? And then Sue's the one that's like, all right, calm down, Harvey. Like, tell us how you can help. She makes peace with Subterranea and ultimately overpowers Galactus, knocking him off his feet to make him vulnerable to the final blow by the Silver Surfer. So I thought this was a big Sue Storm movie. Finally did Sue Storm right. Nick, you're saying Johnny. Hit me with your thoughts.
Yeah, I think surprisingly, as I watched the movie, I thought Johnny drove the story probably the most out of the entire first family. Had some of the most dynamic story arcs as far as, the ladies' man, but also a lot of depth. Like we talked about, he had this very smart bit to him. He drove Reed Richards a lot to spin up that space program. He was very ambitious through that. He was figuring out Shalabal the whole time, trying to play that angle instead of just, we're going to do this. Everybody was a little scatterbrained, and he was very focused throughout the whole movie. He was ready to make the hero play there at the end, was very invested in saving Franklin. So I just thought, as a character, I thought about, without him, I thought the Fantastic Four would have felt really flat from a character perspective. The whole cast was a little melancholy and a little moody and emotional, and I thought Johnny really evened them out very well. I think they did, like you said, they did Sue Storm right. I think they feel like they did Johnny Storm a lot better in this one, instead of just that one-dimensional ladies' man. I'm Johnny Storm. So I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was probably my favorite character in the movie. So nominated him for my MVC.
Yeah, 2 storms.
The Storm Kids. Big coming up for the Storms.
Not like Big Trouble in Little China when we have 3 storms. We have 2 storms here.
We have 2 storms. So it really comes down to, the person who defeated Galactus and had more emotional weight, or the person who added the finishing touches on the whole group. But I thought Johnny Storm's interactions, without him, his interactions with the Silver Surfer really sparked the whole story arc with the Silver Surfer and Galactus, because the rest of them were being reactive, and Johnny was the only one being proactive, I felt like, in the whole story arc.
I have a pirate coin on my Mjolnir foundation behind me. Do we think this is a coin flip situation?
I'll coin flip it. I'll easily coin flip it.
Let's coin flip it. Okay, heads is going to be Sue Storm. Tails is going to be Johnny Storm.
Johnny.
It is Sue Storm. Nick, it is Skull and Crossbones. Sue Storm is our MVC. Let's go, baby. Johnny was right there with her, but due to the power of the coin, bust the deal, spin the wheel. It is Sue.
All right, James, and we have a counterpart to the MVC that we always do, and that is our biggest piece of shit for Fantastic Four First Steps. And in honor of Fantastic Four, I will count down from 4, and we're going to see what our answers are for biggest piece of shit. So 4, 3, 2, 1. James, you have drawn a picture of Galactus. Biggest piece of shit, literally.
Literally by size. Nick, the biggest piece of shit. You said the people of New York on Earth 828. Nick, I'm not going to lie. I did think about that as well. But the reason why I went against that was that they do, and not only just the people in New York, but the entire world, except for Latveria, they mobilize. They say, you know what? We were gooning. We were booling. We were out of control. You know what, Fantastic Four? We expect perfection from you all the time, 24/7, and shame on us for not even just acknowledging that we can't be defeated. And they did mobilize and say, you know what, we are with you, we back you, we're rallying behind you. We're going to build these teleportation bridges. The entire world, really just very efficient. Built those bridges like it was no issues, no budgets, no nothing.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, Galactus is the right choice here. I tried to be a little different, tried to go non-Galactus. Something I'll say for this movie, which is great writing, is there isn't somebody who's a piece of shit for just the sake of being a piece of shit, which is something we see in a lot of movies where, oh, that's just the bad guy. Like, everyone has a reason for what they do. The Silver Surfer is a herald who took the place of her planet to save it. Galactus has an endless hunger that was cursed upon him. He doesn't want to eat planets, not because he's just a bad guy who hates planets. This is a curse that's put upon him. The people of New York, they're scared. They trust their heroes, and now they're in a bad place. So no one's just a outright piece of garbage. But without good reason. So, in all honesty, Galactus.
So we know the backstory of Galactus, and it's a tragic character. He was from the sixth iteration of the universe that collapsed, known as the Big Crunch, and he was able to preserve himself and be in this cosmic egg. And then when the current seventh iteration of the universe was born, he hatched out of that egg. He was a normal person with normal feelings before, but now he has this curse upon him of being that giant cosmic being that has this never-ending hunger. He always has to feed on planets. So we do know that about him, but I do like in this movie, a little bit of pushback on your statement, they do kind of make him a villain just for the sake of being a villain, which I think is fine to do every once in a while. Like, we don't always need that captivating, like, I do this because I have to. We get a hint of that, but he drops some cold ass lines in this movie where he says, I'm going to eat your planet and make your child watch. It's like, they're making this guy a villain just for the good old fashioned time of being a villain.
He views every other being as inferior to him, which, to be fair, they kind of are.
He has big God complex, and he does enjoy watching the little bug squirm, which I think is where the big piece of shit factor comes out. So I'm nominating Galactus for that.
I'm into Galactus. Let's do it.
And Nick, our final award, which we don't even need to write down because we already shouted it out. It doesn't happen every movie, but it is the best yeet. Nick, I think we're in agreement. It's the reverse yeet, the Ben Grimm backfire of 2025, we'll call it. The crane turned on Ben. Ben used the crane to yeet Doom and Rise of the Silver Surfer, but Ben gets straight yeeted by the crane via Galactus. Nick, the best yeet of the Fantastic Four First Steps is Galactus yeeting Ben Grimm literally on the edge of the atmosphere.
Yeah. Do you want to know my favorite part about it is then Johnny Storm gets him and then yeets Ben back into Galactus. It's like he gets yeeted out of the atmosphere and then he yeets back in. And so you got to get like you get a yeet coming and going.
Yeah, there's got to be a Reed Richards law of physics lesson in there somewhere.
Every yeet has an opposite yeet reaction.
Re-yeet action. A
re-yeetion.
A react.
Every yeet has a re-yeeting.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. Just believe us. Okay, Nick, a Galactus size list of heavy hitters for our awards and our results. We need to now wrap up this puppy with the final review, and we're going to transition into that with our sarcastic selling points. Nick, I'm going to go first. My sarcastic selling point is finally a fantastic movie about these four.
I love it. James, I said Fantastic Four, but with good writing, casting, and money.
Big money. Galactus size money.
Final review. Fight.
All right, Nick, it is now time for our final review. We're going to get into what the other guys think, and then we'll get into what we think with this movie. And we are getting minute-by-minute updates because, yes, this movie is still brand new to the weekend. You had scores updated on our doc yesterday. They have already changed minimally by 1 or 2%. But we're going to start out with our usual suspects of the Rotten Tomatoes critics. 86% of the critics enjoyed this movie.
That they did, James. 92% of the people on Rotten Tomatoes loved this movie.
I love to see that. Certified fresh, I believe. Nick, our Metacritic critics are going to be the biggest mole men of the century because they're coming in at a 64 out of 100. 6.4 on the popcorn scale. Fuck you.
Crazy to see. And the Metacritic people at a 6.7. What did they want? What did they expect? What are we doing here?
Nick, what the hell do they want indeed? And now for our planet eating, Ben Grimm Yeating, Mr. Fantastic, more like Mr. Elastic, box office banking, all thanks to Franklin. Say the line, it's clobbering time, score. Brought to you by the Fantastic Car. From IMDb, a 7.5.
Whoa.
We continue the terrific twos here on the Just Play It podcast. It is now time to hit the audience with our laughable log lines, our popcorn points, and just a quick final review of the Fantastic Four first steps from the year 2025. Nick, it is your turn to go first. Please hit me with your laughable log line, popcorn points, and final thoughts.
I would love to, buddy. So my laughable log line here, very simple. I said it's family, and this family is fantastic, and even a world eater can't beat a family. Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I didn't think about this beforehand. I was going to let our conversation guide me. This isn't an 8. It's a 9. It's a 9.0 very easily, and that could change over time. It might go a little higher. I don't think this is an 8. The production value is too good. The casting is perfect. The tone is we said it earlier. This era, this style, this way of doing it was really the only way to truly do Fantastic Four. I didn't know it till I saw it, but once I saw it, I said, this is it. This is how the Fantastic Four have to live. This is the universe it has to start in, and this is the universe these characters have to be incubated in. So just absolutely perfect writing, everything. Things I wish were a little better, which is, again, it's a 9. So it's not like it's a huge issue. Wish we had a little more Ben Grimm. Wish we just got a little more. I feel like a lot hit the cutting room floor, unfortunately. But yeah, all things considered, it's a 9. If you haven't seen it, this is definitely one of those see it in theaters movies. If you need to see it on Disney Plus as well here in a couple months, go ahead and do that. But well done. They nailed the Fantastic Four. All things considered, this is the best version of them you're going to see. I'm pumped for them to be in the, Marvel universe now, to come into Doomsday. I'm excited for where these characters go. And all I can hope is that they keep this cast together. I'd love to see a whole trilogy of these guys.
Hit us with the Christmas special.
Do it. 9.0, easy, all day. Might be a little more once I see it again once or twice. Probably missed a few things, but all things considered, nailed the Fantastic Four. Great job, Shakman. James, that's me, 9.0. You pre-popped this at an 8.8. I'm excited to see where you go with it. Hit me with your laughable log line. Hit me with your points. Give me your quick thoughts.
Nick, my laughable log line is a cosmic giant with a silver chick hype man wants to kidnap a baby and snack on his planet. I gave this the 4.4 plus 4.4 equals my score, hitting you with the rhymes. You said it was better than a 4, and you landed at a 9. God damn, I'm dropping bars, I'm busting rhymes. Nick, how dare you go up to a 9 without me, you son of a bitch. I'm giving this a 9 as well. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like the MCU is in some good-ass hands here, and finally, we have a movie with a unique voice and a unique tone and a unique look. Because I think the problem was we fell a little bit too comfortable into the Marvel formula. And I feel the same thing about Pixar. I feel like Pixar lost its magic after Coco. I felt like there wasn't like a unique storytelling there. I always thought like, oh, they kind of have a formula now. And like Marvel had a formula where we have these quippy little one-liners and we're in this world and everybody knows everybody. This was great. We detached ourselves from the main universe of the MCU and we weren't bound by timelines or rules. We got to just dive into this new world and I loved this new world. And I felt like they finally nailed Marvel's first family. That's not a groundbreaking, you heard it here first take, because they finally did the Fantastic Four right. And I'm not sure if there's ever been a vibe that's been nailed this hard in a movie than the Fantastic Four First Steps. Because like I said, I think when Christopher Nolan came out with The Dark Knight, he came in with his own vision and he said, this is my take on Batman, and it's fantastic, no pun intended. And then I kind of felt like Zack Snyder and his take on Superman, he said, oh, we need to go serious with our superheroes and make it badass and dark and all powerful. And that's not what Superman is. You know, James Gunn comes in and says, Superman's goofy. He wears red trunks and he relates to kids and he cares about all life. And that's the vibe we're going for. The Fantastic Four are goofy, but they're not a laugh at us at the movies. They're a embrace us at the movies. We're not Tim Story. We're wearing scuba suits for our costumes. They're sleek. We're going to dirt bike X Games shenanigans. We're snowboarding to Sum 41. And the Fantastic Four are in their own league where they have to live in this world, which just feels like a perfect way to introduce the Fantastic Four into the MCU.
100%.
And like I said, it's not an origin story of how they got their superpowers. It's an origin story of how they enter the cinematic universe. And now that we know their origins in this utopia-esque, retro-futuristic Manhattan, we know where they come from. We know they come from this Silver Age style universe from Universe 828. And guess what? They don't have to always be there. And we know for a fact that they won't. They're going to go jump into the 616 sandbox or the Secret Wars Battle World sandbox that Doctor Doom is going to give us in the next two Avengers movies. We know where they're from, but it doesn't limit them. You know, this one-of-a-kind setting and their universe does not provide their depth. The characters provide their depth. And this setting and this universe just gives them the best platform to shine. So that was something I very much appreciated with this movie. These characters have always been among Marvel's best, and now we can see them in that MCU playground in future projects, and they'll just be integrated so well because they are just flat out good characters. Love that we finally got a good Sue Storm. I love that we finally got a comic book accurate Galactus, a comic book accurate Ben Grimm, the Thing, and all the practical sets and costumes were integrated super, super well with all the CGI and the visuals that they needed. This is where the happy place is for filmmaking magic, where we marry the practical, marry the CGI, mesh it together so that we're just having fun being in this world that is not normal to us, and it's enjoyable every step of the way. Johnny has more depth. Reed is more interesting, and Ben Grimm has always been a rock. And that's my take on the Fantastic Four First Steps from Matt Shakman. Nick, this is a 9 combined. And like we said, we're going to mull it over. I cannot wait to watch this again. I don't think I've watched a Marvel movie for the second time besides Guardians 3 and Spider-Man No Way Home post Endgame on a rewatch. I think I've seen most of them in theaters once and then I never returned to them. I am very excited to give this another rewatch because I just had so much fun playing in this 1960s New York Fantastic Four world where they have their own villains and they are just the talk of the town and they're the best and they're fantastic.
And they're 4.
That is it for the Fantastic Four First Steps. We want to thank everybody for being here with us. Don't forget to listen, watch, follow us. We are at Just Play It Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Just Play It Pod on X, aka Twitter. And Nick, we have one final duty here to segue us into our next episode. It's going to be our annual Disney Channel original movie. And Nick, we have our wheel of DCOMs and we're just going to find out the answer of what we're watching next. I cannot wait. I love a good wheel spin.
Dude, there's nothing like a wheel spin. There's nothing like a wheel spin.
There's no thrill I'm chasing than winning a major sports championship or spinning a movie wheel.
It's time.
Oh my God. DCOM wheel 2025.
Are you ready for this?
This is from the inception of DCOM movies from the 90s. And then I believe we cut it off at 2008 because that's a little bit beyond our time. But yes, Nick, I am so ready. Count it down.
Here we go.
From 4 and spin that wheel.
4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Oh, baby.
Is it going to be like last year where we don't know what's happening?
Oh, baby.
Oh, let's go.
Return to Halloween Town, James.
Wait a second.
It's Return to Halloween Town.
We almost landed on the Cheetah Girls, but we are returning to Halloween Town. The spooky season's coming early. I can't wait. We are going to be heading gone for now. And remember, when they want you to say the thing, just say, it's clobbering time. Are we going to fuck up the calendars?
Everybody likes to believe they'd be the person who'd say, we're not giving up the baby, but you might be.